They are the Tirana Yin and Chiana Yin.
Any tree, bro. Yes, I saw no tree, Diana. I don't know.
So we'll go ahead and get started. We're running a little behind because of tech stuff. In future classes, we'll get it straight. Until we are beginning Fapium, so this is Foundations of African Thought. We're a Fapium Foundation. I'll be beginning, I'll be before, I'll be beginning. So the course description, I want you to the moon, and then what I am. Our African Thinkers program aims to fill a gap in the epistemological universe of the typical MPhil PhD student regarding world philosophies. You kind of saw as I say, you name Bibifa and Brofodiano, Buddha, Diano, Hindu, Dia, you name Bibiana, so Ebra, you so now if you have to see it, so we don't know very much about it. At the Chirano, so the course will introduce students to the core principles, modes, patterns, and history of thought and knowledge production in Africa and the African world, from antiquity to the present. Who said to the Biana, you can say a word for us and say, I'm going to focus on Shane. But, easy. When so? If you
I must.
Inti, I told the beer, I can say a word for us and say, I'm going to focus on Shane and be remembered son of mobile. I'm going to cast and I can say, Davy, and yes, I'm at you. Until I feel you beside say, and yeah, then I'll want son of by into Minka. What I say, you name. So when we're saying from antiquity to the present, we're saying that we should go beyond the 500-year room. It sounds like I'm going to say, and this say, yeah, on one cry. It will say to me, she say, because if we can actually just look at what we were doing in antiquity and the classical period, then we can just ignore all of the things they're saying because they know very well about these things, because most of the things from antiquity are housed in the London Museum, in the Louvre, in the Turin Museum in Italy, in the museum in Moscow, Berlin Museum. So they know very well what was going on in antiquity, but we waste our time trying to tell them, no, we were doing they know. They know all the things that they stole from us from antiquity. In the course, we introduce students to a variety of fundamentally African concepts and ideas applicable to the development of contemporary indigenous African theoretical and conceptual frameworks. This means that once you know about African concepts and theories, you can start to use them in your own research. But what we tend to do is, okay, what did Marx say? What did Engels say? What did Hume say? What did Hegel say? What did Adam Smith say? We have all these white theories, and then we try to fit them into an African context. It's like trying to fit round pegs into square holes, and they don't go, and we wonder why. So what are our own concepts about these things? I think I have your email address, so I'll send this as a digital. For this course, most of the materials are digital, and you can download them as PDFs. I'm not the one who prints out all these sheets of paper and destroys trees around, because that even goes against African thought. So what would I be doing that? Let me just send you the PDF. So I'll send you the course description, and you can look over it at your leisure. But for the first class, I'll just scroll down to the first class. The first class, we're dealing with origins of African philosophy. And our primary reading for just about every week is Person, Divinity, and Nature by Chukwunyere Kamalu. So we'll go straight into it. So class 1, what is African thought? So we'll deal with origins of African thought, concepts of the person, and rites of passage. Now when you think of African thought at the beginning, what do you think of African thought? What is African thought?
I'm sure I say, I mean, before a quite best normal doing, and then she has seen on war a environment near my and then follow and normally also say we ever Saint Bentina and African thought to me.
It's a mom is all as simple for us. I'd be before to meet Jenny and Brofadjin. If I say Ghana, my mom was just one son to me. Yeah. If I say Ghana, what could be an obisa, Abia, obisa say, any year, the Ohina papa, Fita, and I said to him, be brave because if Fita. Bro, be some say, Bruno, papa, and I'll be near Boniana, or Cassia, and Sanantia. I only have before, who shall one more, I say, only have before. Also, Bibi a coso or my dream. Who be some say, dinner, cron, and a tantan. You can say, oh, Brunei a cron, or Brunei a tantan. And no, ya, I be Virginia, and I say, I'm Brofad Jane, I be share you 3 mama.
I know, maybe when they say a entity, education,
I did try.
I did try. When they say I did try, yes, you are. And my day, they are saying, near Massanier. That's it. Now, every year, I see who said, yeah, Abrophone. Papa saying, a year before the and European, I am not even call for Madame for almost a argument. I now say, we might get it.
And Brian, you are now more dear. Now, so, and see, we know me account, say, come on, what? Parodian
Amici.
Are
you Nigerian?
No, Ghanaian.
Amici is Igbo Nendo?
Yeah, and my favorite friends who are not Ghanaians will ask me the Kwame is a Ghanaian name, but Amici sounds Nigerian. So
because of the chi.
Because of the chi.
But usually the chi is in the front in the Igbo names. So chi America, chi Uku.
Yeah, because I met Amici. When I was Nigeria, I met Amici.
So they asked me, I said, no, it's an Nzema name. But then Alma, the name is Alma, and then the junior is Chi. So when we hear Amici, then Alma Junior.
Oh, okay. Fabulous.
So you hear Kwame meaning Kwame Junior.
So now we're learning some about African thought right here.
So there's a class?
Yeah, this is a class. It's called Foundations of African Thought at Junior Fapium.
Okay.
And the idea can be signed as a besides say, you're a tree and as a young brofo. You say, my infant.
Okay.
Okay.
So one student in the class?
I say, you're back. I say, that's it's I have Papa Brana. It's we are the decan, and see a beer, a being super time, and also you ever share. You walk back on the eye and on one eye.
Okay. Fabulous.
And see, as someone become beside say, I'll be beginning at the end. I feel that maybe I say, I'll be before to be beginning at dinner, and yet I'll be beginning. My mom will be say, "Maybe I will hope you are one thing. I hope you say, I didn't have Papa and I didn't have Bruni, and I say, they are in Papa Fita, and I said, Tum. Abia, only now the young old quine back also. I didn't have Cron, I didn't say a tan. Only now the young old quine so. And see, maybe I said, Sir General, only also have before. Now, so I drink it I had before I had big dinner, and I say I'm before dinner. I share it to the moment. And here, and only I go so the one go. And you all cause I am a chair with you.
Okay.
And here, and why Ben or the man say ABI entity, and I say,
we want to say entity, comedy mine. I say, before the indigenous things, and your papa, and TBI say, yes, share a abundant. And example, I'll say, Ghana, and Mangona Bay, NDC, MPP, multi party democracy. So, catch on was a no. Democracy, I can say, can be Mammy Kebino, and you're wrongly rendered in our language should be yen church to agree. yen to to adwen na ye hu ne papa yen se e be kabima kabima kebi de ante udi matter about me de
me do ate
and anything na ma
competitive as against collaborative.
Nti no me say ebibi ma asana abo for the na ye wo adwen so proper democracy. Yes, ba wo be come na say and wo adwen na akofa ba na wo be say wo ye o pleto ana and now nti you go say I want to ask anyway then they will point to me say me you did business at the university at the political side. They did political science, so I cannot come in and then bring my thoughts on those things because
I'm going to Kabi, Mamma Kabi, and after the Mom Kabi.
Exactly.
I want to make him.
I say, me when say Titiana, yet, you know, I say. Omo buy no omo my who say yeah no you need papa be say yes san ye ho ne yet so omo ntina I say be mu ne pe say yes san ye ho ne yes say omo
sa nyam no je say to me she say ye na sa hwana titire no hwana onya e ho mfaso what I say as I say e bra wo pese e bia wo pese wo ye o 3 meters amodie hwana onya ho mfaso san say je say wo komo ho na onya a wood room, they wish you would trim, and Sana will be to me as you have young. If you are also for I will be to say, and also one now or ya a musica, what I said. Also, say a can or you say a pen, Yamison. Now, so was our answer, I said, Yammy or Borman or any ye. Did you send me see him? Is it Miss Yesty more 1 year? It is Yamison. Me person me de bibi to dwa kakra esan say nhweso me de ma wono te say fitaa ne tuntum wo hwe song hoy kasa wo ye ka tete Ghana Mali ne song hoy Ghana enye sana omofra omoma kasa na omofra omano wagadu ye fra no Ghana nti sa din we no efri Arab ni ye fra no al-Khwarizmi awo afi awotwe aduasa e hono 8:30 around 8:30 CE common era. Or dream say on call Tete Ghana, Tete Wagadu actually say and Mwakuo mine, Mwakuo and my actually said Nantria Bibrio and Ran Woho and more Bibrio, the Wagadu actually say Mwakuo mine. Now so Ghana a year of Hene Nimrane, Makan, aye. To say Makan, but I say Makan Jata, and just say Sun Jata, and Nemrane Makan. It is our Ghana if we or any say if I say Yana. I say Yana. To say no, and I say Abia and embrace and I say, so on my way no a Kufuadom mine, or Kufuadom mine. And in Chile say, on Manan Casa, Evra, or Kufuadom also on or down, and in Vasa, oh, a mine. Trump, the mine in ye. Now, so yes, I need a friend on man. And to be Ira or Abacosum, Sabrina, Yefra, Wagadu, Mali, and yes, I'm a friend on mine. Number friend, Nyani, we see in that, San Yanina, that's all I will guinea. Nyani, now some of them Mali, as I said, we are my link for. Is a Mende, Mandingo, Yakoba. Now so send you my link for now from Mali, the trying to Mali. After some hoy, some of friend on Casa, some hoy. Now I was some hoy Casa, be share when my million Kakra. Ubisha, Omokasana, et say, P. Kakra, as I say, Sa Bibi, I or Bibi a tray tuntum, to say, O Bibini, a Bibi draw, a Bibi mine, Sa Bibi a woman, a tray Bibia, they see. Until I was Omokasa Bibi, Boro Bibi, and I said Kuro Bibi, a chere tuntum, after the chere Nipa, after the Bibia, more person would say a the pa, and would decide Bibina so. This concept is never used to designate anything negative. A brebia mupese, Bibia papa, Mufan say Oya tuntum, Mufan say, and a tear tuntum, Mokase in Siu tuntum. omo kana sa omo patch de say nsuo krogen na so enya krogen no mo ka say nsuo tuntum no we kire say papa enti nhwe so omo de ba I know Harry Bibi give me black water and kire nsuo krogen tira ma fire kuro kaji ra ka koko omo kire say sumai say ebecha de say e tuntum esan say ebia wo ye na kokko na bepa wo ye na ahamono a eno so na bepa also bra e tuntum e dia edimu ensai what you say nti wo pe BBI wo ho afebo de say wo ye na tuntum wo calendar bibi omo kire say notie I wo turo garden I wo turo no anya papa de say e tuntum Masi fata wanye bibi water. Don't go out into the black sun. Bramo chere say oya na awo hwaden pa bibi awo hwaden. Mo chere say oya tuntum. Bibri ye tuntum. Enti we nyina na chere say beauty and totality. Bramo ka say wanye bibi. Mo chere say oya tuntum. Bramo ka say purity and reliability and so crogen. Mo dey say bibi a chere tuntum. Nti wo hwa awa kan kasa geda so wasa asempo no so ye hu no sa bra me kasa okra brifo e kire se obi a ne kra enye ne kra bia na enye papa what you say otashia ato yirenchem what you say esa say ye ben empo no ye ben ba bia ambrofo ba no de wo hwa aduane kra ye di aiwo anafo eso no aduane ye di wo anafo na so no aduane abibifo aiwo atifi edi ze banku ebro de enfri abibiman ye hwe dokono enfri abibiman ebro enfri abibiman kra banche eno so enfri abibiman bodie enfri abibiman ebi wo hokra wo hwe edin na ebe kire wo se enfri abibiman odie e kire bayere odie awo kwepem kra odie e kire bayere bro ka se bro die e kire se odie aifri abrojiri efri ha ne fa se anamuna amel efre we ka se bro fre na kire se efre etise efre a ha no na so eye omodia ai free abrojiri what you say bro ya ka safa tise abe dia efri ha na so dia free abrojiri ye friend bro abrobe
That's like cocoyam.
No.
David pineapple.
Oh,
Abrobe.
so that's not local.
Eti din kura na be kire say free ha na so say wuni mu a ebia wo bedwune say sa nyama no na free ha ye ba say fufuo asante fufuo na te say wo hwe abimma nipa bibre wo ha mo di bibi te say fufuo so ye wo what you say na so fufuo am kasa banche free ha fufuo we no bodie nye ha na free what you say na so wo ko asante mo a won't me nkan je wo say wo die nya de free na so wo ko etifika kra wo bo hu say omo da so wo na so de omo wo no e ya odie e ya bayre ai wa enti je so wo ko etifi ansa na wo bo hu aduane ya yedi je se wo ko be wi ke say mali ansa na wo hu aduan ye buta fa tuntum ho enti bra wo ben empoano no wo hu say aduan e free okay si brofo sana tezi no sa e Portuguese you know okay si brofo omo adwen wo mo say abem Dutch for abem Dane for abem English ya brofo ankasa omo adwen na abem what you say asesa sene ya yesi ho anyama no nti ya we are yedi kan de bar no e asembisa ha wo say yetumi bisa say enye bibia ye dwen na eye abibifo adwen wo hwe tete kemet sana omofra omano e kire abibiman na ne mere omofra ancient Egypt aso omo ankasa omo mfra mo no say oh me ancient Egyptian ni na bi omofra mo ho say kemet what I say omo kire say Egyptians na so sa kem ai wo mo no e kire tuntum kem e kire tuntum afide a kire de edimu uba ewie a afina unya de edimu nti saa adwene kɔ so
ebetumi a ebisa sɛ ɔne abɔdeɛ ho suaeɛ ayɛ sɛ de colours ɛbɛka sɛ ahosuo nyinaa bɔ mu a na yɛnya tuntum na kyɛ sɛ ɛdi mu
sɛ ebia wowɔ fitaa nkwan a ɛtɔ so ne koraa wode akɔkɔsradeɛ ka ho a ɛno nso ɛtɔ so ne wonya mba awieɛ wode kɔkɔɔ nso ka ho a ɛda so tɔ so ne bebree wode nyinaa ka ho biredum memen ɛyɛ no sika kɔkɔɔ dwetɛ nyinaa wode bɔ mu a dodoɔyɛ wode nyinaa bɔ mu a wowie a ɛnya tuntum nti ɛyɛ anyansapɛ a yɛnam so yɛka saa ɛyɛ sɛ yɛka no kɛkɛ saa sɛ ɛnɛ mmere ɛhu sɛ ɛyɛ tuntum a ɛ sɛ mekɔ nti nyinaa ne sɛ ɛnyɛ adwene a yɛkuta ɛnɛ mmere na ɛyɛ adwene a ɛwɔ wiase afa no nyinaa yɛhwɛ tete a ɛnyɛ saa na ɛteɛ wohwɛ nansan a te sɛ sɔnhɔ ebi nso ɔmo fa sɛ ɛyɛ tete wonim abako so ma wo nka sɛ Ghana Mali sɔnhɔ ɛyɛ tete deɛ bi ɛno yɛ na wɔtwetwe mu yɛnyɛ nduru tete hɔ no ɛyɛ ma yɛntɔ so ma yɛhwɛ asɛntikyerɛ a yɛbɛka nti ɛne mmerɛ yɛbɛbusa sɛ ɛde ne a abirifo adwene a modɔ a abirifo ekuta afei deɛ ɛsɛn si hu wiase ɛno nso na ɛyɛ deɛ afei deɛ ɛsɛn si hu wiase ɛde nsonsansoɔ na ɛwɔ hɔ ayɛ yankasa ayɛ adwene me hu wiase sɛ saa na ɛte a ɛne adwene bɛn na ɛbɛba me tirim wɔte ase sɛ wodwene sɛ biribi ayɛ tuntum na yɛ abɔne na biribi ayɛ fitaa na yɛ papa ɛde adwene bɛba ɛde na wobɛyɛ ɛsan sɛ adwene no ɛno na ɛdi ɛnɛyɛ anim no wɔte ase
so thoughts precede our actions
nti yɛbɛhwɛ abibidwene ne farebae ayɛwɔ na wɔtwe wei mu nti yɛbɛhwɛ sɛ abibifo adwene no yɛwɔ nkabom ayɛwɔ sɛnɛsi hu awiase no ebi a wohu sonsoneɛ ayɛwɔ sɛnea nkranfo si yi apaeɛ ɔmo yɛ no si sɛnea abibifo ɔmo si yi apaeɛ ne si sɛnea akamfo si yi apaeɛ ne si sɛnea ɛyɛ dagbangbafoɔ si yi apaeɛ ne si nanso yɛ ntaa mmisa sɛ ade nti na ɛne nyinaa yɛyi apaeɛ yɛho nsonsoneɛ nketenkete ayɛwɔ mu no nanso yɛdwen sɛ ɛdɛn adwene a yɛfapem akyerɛ sɛ ɛde yɛtumi apaeɛ ɛno na yɛbɛhwɛ nti yɛbɛhwɛ nsonsoneɛ a ɛwɔ hɔ na mmom ɛberɛ a yɛhwɛ ɛno nko a ɛma yɛntirim yɛnyɛ kesrenee yɛnte hwee aseɛ wate aseɛ akɔyɛ sɛ ebia mfonitwafidie wei mfonitwafidie sɛ mɛkɔm koraa ebia mehu ade ketewaa bi nanso mɛkɔm a mehu sɛ nyinaa ɛyɛ deɛn ɛyɛ ntoma anaasɛ ɛyɛ deɛn mehu sɛ ɛyɛ nipa ne honam anaasɛ ɛyɛ ntoma anaasɛ ɛyɛ pono anaasɛ deɛn sɛ metwe me ho kakra ansa na nti nyinaa nie saa berɛ no mentumi ma saa kɔ na mahwehwɛ mu na so mehwɛ kitikiti nkoaa deɛ a ɛne menhu hwee deɛ me ho koraa mente aseɛ nti yɛbɛhwɛ animia mu ɛsiane sɛ ɛnyɛ sɛ wɔyɛ papa na wɔnkwa na yɛbɔne yɛbɛhwɛ animia mu nti afei yɛbɛhwɛ ntoasoɔ ɛne nkitahodie ada wei nyinaa ntɛm amammerɛ wɔ ha ɛne amammerɛ wɔ hɔ nyinaa yɛmfa sɛ ɛno yɛ nsonsansoɔ deɛ ɛfiri mu bae nanso ɛde mfapem na nyina ɛwɔ yɛmfa sɛ ɛdia nyinaa ɔkɔ sɛ dua na si hɔ wohu abaa wei no wohu dubaa wei no wohu dubaa wei no wohu dubaa nkoa deɛ a wobɛka sɛ ɔno nkoa na agyina ɔbɛ ɛfi baabi ɔkyɛ sɛ ɛfiri ntini ankasa ɛfiri aba nti aba ɛno a na yɛhwehwɛ nti afei nso sɛ yɛhwɛ ɛyɛ no nsɛm bi yɛmfa sɛ ebi kora mpo a anansesɛm ebi a mu sɛ ɛha ɛyɛ ananse wokɔ Nigeria de sɛ Yoruba ɛyɛ Ijapa akyekyedeɛ ɔkyɛ sɛ wohwɛ akyekyedeɛ no a ɛne ananse a ɛtɔ de bi a wohu sɛ anansesɛm a wɔ hɔ no nyinaa ɛyɛ baako ɔmo deɛ nko ara ne sɛ ɛyɛ akyekyedeɛ na ɔyɛ yɛn deɛ nko ara sɛ ɛyɛ anansi na ɔyɛ na nso adwin bɛn na ɛwɔ yɛbɛhwɛ no afei deɛ mehwɛ pɔtɔkasa a ɛfiri Jacob Corrales ɔsɛ African champions must break the chain that links African ideas to European ones and listen to the voice of the ancestors without European interpreters. Juada etwa mo no me ma bedroom kasa I wo excellent I kasa mama dwumako bi. Me ka say we pepe agina hyedia no. Dia ta ba me say essay ya adwena yekuta. Ebra ya ka say nyame ne God ni na yepe. We na ya ka ho asom sisia. No more ka say God e bema de bi kana e bema de to so mi no e obroni de to so miensa otwini nkunu
okoya bi shia 1 minute right
yeah
okoya
for mimra
okoya
me pon be say no e be ha
o da mo
yeah aha enti sa de we no pepepe say we any we nyina ye pe now so say your fan sa your fan say oh in your God or your bema you to me no e bruni me ho ye fita the team is so fita or say omunum kom biso omunum kom cloud or tell omunum kom biso afi there so we bibia any briye o twini nkono o ka say ma won ko ho there be ma won some way ma won ye o ja say wo hye mra si now so say you bisa ya na momo a e den adwen na ekutafa onyame ho anase awrade ho anase nyankopon ho anase bibia ho enye sa adwen no so e bruni fita wo mununkum so e be hwe bibi se we no bibia e bra mramwo na gold weight mramwo enti sa mramo we no wo be hwe se kanu no yede sikafuturo na edibia enti yede sa mramo ebeto bengom so yede sikafuturo na eto edifaso na wo de carry to measure wo de carry so say
Okay, so when there's a balance.
ai na pepepe na ai sa ade we no amofra no Radin Yankopon.
to the judge
Ade we. Ati wo ho sa amramo we a mufra Radin Yankopon. Enti Arade ano ya ahinasa. As a triangle, ahinasa. Ajina homa oba dia. Yankopon ano ya kanko amo finfin. Ano ya Yankopon. Enti wo be hwa sa ahinasa no ejina homa awotwa. So the triangle represents the womb, ejina homa awotwa. Ene kanko no ejina homa ahomba. Obema ahomba a ko awotwa no. Ene sa ansa na wo betumi aye oboade. Actually say ansa na wo betumi abo ade foforo. Te se wonya oba ene bema. Bi wo ho ayi fra ya men hihye. Yamin shisha if I say way and shisha a free fiti I say the back and there until we should be to say we and so on. Vaze jinyame na ebe abata hono se abodie santan yifrititi abodie santan where I cast Santa, maybe Tintin, say I told Santa and say, you know, I was our congress. They say, about dear Santa, you fleeted. Obintia said, not only not Shassia. Now, Obinton, I say, go see Nary, Ginyame. It is Ginyame and all that chat work. Now, so you partially say, about dear Santa, you fleeted. Obintia said, only not Shassia. Obinton, I say, go see Nary.
We don't know the beginning and the end, except God.
Except Yami.
Okay.
I wouldn't say except God.
Except Yami.
That's the whole point of what we're dealing with, right?
That's
Because
the programming.
Yeah, it's step by step. So we say Nyami Shisha, this is what we're talking about as Nyami Shisha. Sana Abodye, then Shasia Etian. Yeah, a bed in a Honasa, as I say, you say Sana and Shisha, Etian Sabri. Se me kasa won kwa ye boy bema nti ko she dan we mu na aboso me nkron echi peso wo be wo betumi se e oba kra ya anye ne hwe e kasa ko sa dan we mu me ba me twen aboso me nkron me ba me peso me hu akona wo ntumi
nti wodi enye se oba kra ko se wodi e man edu kwa poku se o boso I to me. What the mama
apim
to me. I just say, yeah, Bama, no bar, and sana.
As I say, we a young share. Said a tear or Ashasiam, Samson and tear and there. Samson and there. I will every year.
I've been crossing with you, so her friend, Yamin, God doesn't die. So I won't die. What is, so are we God?
I simply say, this is what we say, and so Sonia Bena and me and in Yaminta. So we share BB to say, your war to Homa, your friend, and Homa, I bow a year a PM, the book of coming forth by day. Say, and therefore, say, I did here, we and Homa was all to me kuta. And she was Homoka say, Amen Ra, Sa Amen, free Sa Yame. He say, Oya Bakupe, now so, and Sa Dorso. We share Tete account for him, and said, Denchra Hennebi, if not already Bassa. Already Bassa. And they said, Nankasana, Oya, already in the Bassa Baku.
Okay.
What is it? And you say, Oh, Yamo baby, no, so Mitia. And they say, Yes, so you can
be one with God. Or we are finite expressions of the infinite.
You will bet you on us. And I know that I dream Yakuta. What I say. A proper Waka said, Debbie, Yami Brunibia, Hotel, so once what ya, we are money. Now, so yes, Anna, Yahoo, idea. What I say. And he said, Yamin to me, what? Till the men so to me.
Yeah.
Sounds on a whom and rare. As I say, if I say, I did if not away and penny football baby said, Onipa wa on wooye, Onipa wa on wooye. And I said, was sacra, Madonna before. If I say, you name say, a body of Munya Sapatch said, Nipa Diana or ha and Chichimu at Duosona and you. Dear Moja, dear trim home, dear Bibia, teaching not against you. And he said, Nipa wa, science, you know, and yes, Ayra, and the assassin. You do see a crampo science, you know, a call assassin. Every assassin, a because of Madame Munkum. Every Munkum, never done it, was you at the top. I and in your masses, I did your friend of war, and they say, and Sacrai.
So spiritually the same thing. We get absorbed into the cosmic consciousness, right?
You know, boom, you can now boom. Sadia, your friend, Yami. What I say? And you know, say,
the best media, Papa, someone say, is a body has a statement, energy is neither created no more.
Aye. And see, a brother said, I know you are dreamful for a money buy. Also, Sadia, I don't think I hear pie.
Okay.
As I say in himself, Manama, me who no biom, now so was son. What I say? I could say, Uria, say you say the bia we are to who we are biom aso you say we are na da so ho one okaze o we are to any ho impie biom wo kana say kire say we akwara wa di dakro I was aseso ade aye hu enim say da so ho nti ye fa say nipa ankura ba ko bia na o te say o we are kitwa nti tete no sanso na ye fra o hene say no dia o ye o we are kitwa woko ba Congo for omo amufre Congo omo ka se nipa ba ko bia te se owia kitwa afide omo ka se hwe ni abodie mu ante se owia kitwa ene se ewo in say audition that's midnight audition ewo audition afide ewo adechie bibia ewo adechie in say awo da ye de wo no ye adechie ma afide ewo original ye bibia yefa say oman ewo ebra ewo na ho ade yefa say bibia sana tie afide ebeba atoye wati ase ebra ebeto sa atoye nso sana yefa say owo o sa owo no ebeda na fofo yefa say nipa te owo krampo a edinitie krampo a aba na ebeto asase nso asa aba no ebenya na ho ade afri he asase na so wo ho na ada na detia enti sa adua asi ho no e wonana enti ye ka se oh ade ntino wo som edua we no there be ene se minim abodi mu nyansa pe amudo wo na wonti ase eno ntina me pese me two free sa asase we so sanse minim se de atwa mo chi hia nyina aye menano no omo dane ade fofo Eti we na menchira wo we
Interesting. You have a book on that? Foundation of African?
Some of fresh on Foundations of African Thought. Eti I know you we. I'm good na.
No.
I'm good na. Come mas.
When in I'm good na.
I feel your she won't she won't she. So I
cannot be destroyed.
I did she now so to me she.
She
Won't she? She I will throw she.
You can be transmuted, but you cannot be destroyed.
And see, a body energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed in a closed system. Until you say, a body na Yama Sakra, Yama Dane. Until we share Adrian Yukutafa, a body na ne far by, and I said Nipan Kasani far by. Yabet was all Mayam Bobon now, so say, and also if I say Dipan Yina free Ovianum. Nadia Yenifa, a body munyan sapesi say, and say, if I say Ovia, ne far by a yam futuro, I will a home that space. And it's our futuro no say a year kitwe say, Uso Babua, Munyashi, and Tessem Frama. Now, so, sir, Sinikitwe be anyway, a shia, Nafidia, a chin, dear Tosomian Saba. Dear Tosomian Saba, chin, dear Tosomine was
Gravitational.
I could say she walk, that's how we call magnetism. She walk. I could say she walk. As I and Nina, a tons of fret and watching. Some watching at a tons of fret, Dunsia. Some Dunsia, our tons of fret, a Drasamino. Some Drasamino, our tons of fret, a Dunsia 9. Some Dunsia 9, our tons of fret, or ha and do no watching. I could say, dear, day to my city, I bring Benu, binary code, Benu. Sana na yena no omo bobe say ewiase nyina na benu ewiase mu nyina na benu sana di ntia na ebra nyina doso pa na afide e bomba ko na afide de wom no ntumi woso ne ho bi ntumi mpie bi na afide e soja sa janu na dane owia na se mfuturo doso a saa futuro ebe twine ho aba owi adika no ho kopimbra eno so ebe ka ne ho bom na asoja na adane mienu nti wo bi hwe a awia mienu na dɔso ai wo abodie mu chain ba ko pɛ ewia sɛ owia wo ha no ba ko pɛ ɛno na dɔso wo abodie mu de dɔso wo owia wo abodie mu ɛyɛ mienu anase miensa anase de brosa ɛsan sɛ na foot dɔso nti ye fa sɛ ye wo awia mienu ai wo ha na sɛ saa futuro sɛ ɛnɔso kopimbra ɛbɛdane owia atoso mienu no de aka no ɛbɛdane achinsroma that's how we call planets achinsroma ɛsan sɛ futuro ɛnɔso kopimbra ni na betumi abom ba ko na soja nti sɛ ntumi soja a ɛbɛdane bibi te sɛ asase te sɛ yakɔ that's how we call Mars te sɛ obindasom that's how we call Jupiter.
Okay, so a certain threshold needs to be attained for it to like
open bra ni na bomba ko na fidi antumi wo so bium na so dia won fifi sa jam na do so adane obi ate se nsroma enti se no so a intumi mpie te se obi ndason Jupiter eson na so enson ko pembra eno so betumi soja.
So will it follow that the sun is the biggest entity in the cosmos?
Yeah, there a banyan ane now so nyina there be as I say area wo ho a bro yende no kra
area wo bro
area wo ha e bro yende no kra e ma yende no ye betumi abo ho apim ana say pim do anyina ba ko yes
I need to go
and yet there a banyan there nyina we are back up. I was there with three. I fancy a stroma to a be, and no, there are some change in the cry. I was actually stroma trying to share. And see, the American United says, into me, they are doors of copy and bra. I bet
let's just say a beasas, nothing, and planet, no, and so I change Roma. And see, what your nanon. Abodie ho nsem ye ka say yin na ayo asase so ye free owianom what I say ye be kan bi mo ka say ye free owianom na mo ka na sa ayo ka say oh ya na asesem keke dabi e ya abodie mu nyansa pe e de ye kan mfie mpem nan mpem no ma twia mo no na so enemre na bro ka say oh ye na ye de sa ade no ba yo mo mo saman ye o wa ya de na so ye sa na ye kan ye ka say ye free owianom Oya na boy na ampani ampa ye ka say ye free oya ho na bedane nipa ye bedane moa ye bedane anyama foforo na ye no kro san say bibia wo oya no sa pepepe na wo ye mu anu ntin ye ka say nipa bia te say oya ketwa esan say bia wo mu ene bia e wo oya no ni na ye pe atasi enti e ya adu amu do ya body mu nyansa pe aya de anka ye sua anka be boan ya ma yente enyama atie ye se so no osom na so no abody mu nyansa pe sa na tie enemri esa se omode no na anasem keke
so how saying that ye tie as say ye fi area no the boy how would it impact our psychology, our worldview, which will then manifest in our actions?
I will acquire me brace. The decano bra in him say, you know, yet say, reactwa. The decano, you be who the entire year pie. As I say, in him say, you are a player, in him say, somewhat a toy. Now, bra wouldn't him say, what was our babion? Who would say, and you know what I say? Who would say, and from Mamma? As I say, wouldn't him say, one Casana, what was our baby to Adian? Until if I say, if you bra before we are seeing, if I say, and fear of pepim me and sound of pepim nano, the be seen ne, and so crodium 1 hour. Copimbra, yes, the Saya dream. Yes, Saya dream say, me back bacope. It may some bruni we are, and after they may call or throw. Sa dream on and my, if I say, oh, any of me send your ma in farm. That's it. And see, I was saying to me beside, I was saying, I didn't know, sir, and sing you now, where you trim and fear and pim. If I say, or pim 4 million years, they have rosa. Besine. Now, so if I say, and fear a dunum in them, now for their collie. Collie, if I say, now, and see you cron, and then we walk off. As I say, we are Jan and I or baller, Sumina. What I say? As I say, would name say me, Mancasa, I miss how about the 12 sons you win. Did you say to be Galamsey? I mean, I soon say, oh, I say, and you say,
a more sustainable approach to life. If we appreciate the cycle.
I know you're the deacon, and also you're between a Casafa Bibrion. I had the chair you now. I know I'm a should be.
And the people say, because of failure, a footroll be brave at Essil, and a man area. I and so also as also saying, area.
But I can't foot on your fancy and some foot on stardust. Now, teacher, or jump from gas or jump from her. Friend says stardust, now so teacher or jump from her. Now, if you do share in from we are with more Adriane. Now, walk or talk in from her. Omedian from you now, shum. After the just all coopro, some and yes, she am from her. Now, so the mood channel sounds so not it's yet. Now, we cry, walk as a mood drew. The moon year drew to say, oh, yeah. And painful baby said, Assassi do simple. Assassi do simple. You know, saying sooner a mood.
It's more dense.
It's heavier than the sea. You know, I say, if you are way a walk, way a boba, put it to more a book from the car assassin. And he said, and sooner a mood to say, a moon year drew to say, and on to assassin walk as yet. And they say, be champion. Now, we'll be assassin.
Into maybe say, send a good way and I say, you move from gas. The break and bomber, any year will. As I said, so you say a volcanic eruption, not a shiko. It's not just a, you said there's a burning area around it. By the center of my year, as I said, every year, outside, you know, and she, Nemo, the feet moon, APR, and she.
You know, say, side trip, boy, yaka, assassin, film, Cassa, and that, yeah. A nanny. I done in Sunsu. And then you see, I done in Sunsu said, Bibi piano, Bibi miam. You know, a mia, the on Fifin, I there she what you say. A bra, sir, or jump from us at Doswan, the on Fifin, no, and yes, I bear she, and I said, a soft, what you say, a best soft now be done in Oja. To say, oh, yeah.
So there's the spark is there.
That's what they call fusion, nuclear fusion.
Yeah. So the spark is there at the core, but the threshold for the spark to become an all-consuming entity it's not met unless you cross the accumulation of gases.
So when we're talking about nuclear fusion, we're talking about here's this atom, here's this atom. Now, interestingly, when we're talking about creation stories, the name for the creator was Atom. This is in Kemet. They said Atom gave birth to Shu and Tefnut. From there became Geb and Nut. From there became Asar, Aset, Seter, and Nebet. So they're going from 1 to now this 1 has given birth to 2. The 2 then becomes 4. The 4 becomes 8. The 8 becomes 16, just as we were talking about before, in binary. So this is the understanding, and if you look all throughout the continent, this is how we understand creation. This is also how we understand cellular division in modern science. You have the zygote, fertilized, that splits into 2, the 2 becomes 4, the 4 becomes 8, the 8 becomes... So all of these things are scientific, and they all match each other. Right? So when we're talking about nuclear fusion, you're talking about atom, as we said in our creation stories, atom. And then when this atom and this atom, they don't have room, they are crushed to the point where they don't have room to move anymore. And then this one fuses into that one. When they fuse, they give off heat and light. What was previously 2 atoms, when they fuse into each other, they give off heat and light. That's nuclear fusion. This first one sets off a chain reaction where all of these other ones also have that similar reaction. The ones that are first closest to it, all the way extending out to as much of this mass is there.
That's interesting. I find that interesting because scientific study in recent times has shown that when a sperm meets an egg, a light goes off. They just picked up the light in the last few years. The light goes off. So is that like fusion?
You can think about all of these things as analogous processes to each other. And you go from the known to the unknown. So we're talking about the beginning of creation right now and into the future. So if you know that this is how creation works now, then you can say that's how it must have worked in the beginning. By the same token, if you know that that's how it worked in the beginning, then you know this is how it works now. When we go to creation stories, we'll go into, in the beginning was nothing but water. They said noon. From the water, then you have the sun that comes up into it. The water represents the womb, Aradia. And then the sun that comes up into it represents Nyankopon, the sperm into it. So again, if you know this is how creation works now, the feminine and the masculine come together, you know that's how it must have worked in the beginning. That's how it must work all the way into the future, because there's this divine order.
So in the beginning, since there is no other, there is nothingness before everything starts, right?
No. There's matter before everything starts. Matter is called noon. That's what they refer to as the primordial or primeval waters. So in the beginning, that's what existed was endless water.
Before the waters.
That's what so this is now you're starting to think very well, because think about what happened before the water that was in the womb of your mother, right? If you understand the process that got your mother to become a full-grown mother, then what preceded her for her to become a full-grown mother, and then what preceded her to become a full-grown mother, then you understand this process goes on ad infinitum.
Okay.
But
so
in the
no
beginning, it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. Okay.
So at the conception is water, right? Then the sun comes up. This is like the primeval demiurge. It comes into the water. When they fuse, then that's where creation takes place.
So who created the cycle?
So again, this is, you go to an infinite beginning, infinite beginning. Because who created your mother? Right? It was a masculine and a feminine. Right? Then who created both your mother and your father? That's when you're going to grandparents. Then who created? And if you want shorthand for every single thing that has created all of creation, that's what you refer to in shorthand as Onyame.
So yes, so he encompasses all. So that entity, Nyame, is all encompassing. It is infinite.
And you can think about every variable added together. Because like, let's just look at your parents. If they didn't meet, you would not be born. This is the concept of Muntungu Muntunga Bantu, that a human is a human because of human beings. Literally. Because you would not be this human sitting here if not for this human being and that human being who met and then created you. And then if their parents didn't meet, so let's say they met at a market somewhere, this one, I winked at that one, and whatever happened, that just a small change in those variables, I'm not going to the market today, and you don't exist, at least not in the form that you are now. So sometimes I like joke with my daughter, I'll say, remember when you were a stone? No! But literally, when you combine every variable you can think of together into one thing, so this is to actually get to these sources, to these origins. We look at the creation stories, and they help to explain that. But if you want to know what happened before that water, then think about, well, what happened before the water that caused me to be created? Because you are a microcosm of everything. Then you go to what happened before that mother was born. Then what happened before that mother was born? One war, Mena. One war, Menana. One war, Menana Kansua. One war, Nayako Ichirisa, Nafi. All I would tell you.
And to make I say, we're going to be those times when now they now be preaching about. So I was just thinking about, in the beginning was the word, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. So I sat down, I liked it, I thought of it over and over, and I said, okay, then what is this God? So I got this concept, which is not written in there, but I then told myself that I think this can be told to people, that God couldn't have come from anywhere.
From anywhere.
Yeah. And therefore, the BIA is actually that God that has atomized itself to different, so it be a boy, it be you know, and that in the end, everything is in God, and that God is not somewhere. That's what's there.
So in Him,
Okay.
so all things exist because of Nyame, and Nyame is in all things.
It's all things.
And Nyame holds all things together. Right?
And Nyame is the shorthand for all of these things put together.
Nyame.
That's the way when we want to refer to that tiny spark of light that didn't shine towards us. Let's think about the furthest star you can think of. You only see the light from that star that's traveled however many billions of light years to come and finally hit your eye today. But what about the light that traveled in the other direction? Into the darkness that we don't even know about. So if we want to talk about every single thing that has ever existed, you have to include that light that went in the other direction, as far away as it has traveled to get to you.
So it's Nyame continuously expanding.
So this is the question.
Infinitely expanding.
So there's the common idea now that the universe is infinitely expanding because of dark matter, and they explain it by dark matter. If you look at even Onyame, we look at the etymology of Onyame, and we look at someone who was born on Miminda, the word Miminda na Wuchiami Meji also say, Ya, Amen. Nti sa Amen, Wusha Obia Yono Miminda, Oba Yono Miminda, Ama. Who called Dogon for Dogon, I will Mali. Senamo almost a friend Yame Ama. Who called Kemeta, Senamo Frere on Yame Amen. Star Amin, yeah, just to say, yeah, Amen Bezine. Who called Rwanda Imana. Who called Bibia Amen, 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 Amen. And he say, who called Tete Kemeta Amen, I said to say, dear, you see what you mean name. They will kind of Sana, Sa Amen, a year cano, Sa Yame, a year cano, I said, actually said, dear, you did see. I would Yaman name.
The essence of life. It says like the essence of all things.
You could say it, usually it's translated as the hidden one.
The hidden one.
And it said, Abia will bosom no son. Now so, when Yami woman. Also, now so, when Yami a woman. But indeed, the old canals and Nuna Yadria, and Horn Fiam Pim Numbra, you become Fiat Tronyama.
So, my ultimate question is apparently we got corrupted along the line.
The Mamma way answer that question. Amen. Amen. Ebra will bomb Pyria now, say Amen. They win Oka. Nafe Amen, as Sanchez said, conceal, hide. Amen, conceal, hide. Secret, hidden, conceal, hide. It is that Amen, a year. In fact, Bosom Senior is a friend on your main Sabran. Actually, said, dear, a woman. After the if I say, Abia, Recas and Miminada. If I say, Yamene, Bibi, dear Miminan, a woman. What is a mamene? And it's our dream in our actually said, dear, a woman. And he said, oh, Cano, a dream you could have what you have treated. If I say, Fiam Pimnum, a tremble and a true in our home. But now be so.
Superior thoughts, I believe, lead to superior actions. And superior actions build superior things. Right? So given this superior, given this superior paradigm that we had, how come we were able to become subject to what we may say is, it may not be inferior, it's inferior, just like a virus, right? A computer may have an operating system, and a virus may be integrated to degrade the performance of the computer. But that virus will be designed by someone who also has a superior mindset, all right? So in a sense, it's like a chessboard, the way I see it. It's like a board with kings and queens on opposite sides, and there are tokens, right? So it seems that the kings and queens have this superior knowledge which they use to manipulate the tokens, right? So, in a sense, at this point in the chess game, it seems like one side overcame the other. Why would we be susceptible to that when we had, superior wisdom or superior insights require protective functions, protective preservation? What went wrong?
There's a good book that you should read called Destruction of Black Civilization. The whole book, have you read it before?
I've heard about it, but I don't think
It goes into the answer to your question. Essentially, you allowed your enemy in. There's a proverb, evil enters like a needle and spreads like an oak tree. So by allowing your enemies in, we taught the Greeks were the conquerors who ended the civilization. You understand? That's one. The second one is everything's strength is its weakness. Right? If you look at a boxer, for example, he looks very strong, whatever, he has muscles on top of muscles, that's his strength, is his physical, whatever. But by the same token, those muscles require oxygen. So this person who looks as muscular as whatever, his strength is his weakness, so his stamina is down. You get him into the second, third round, he's huffing and puffing because he can't breathe in enough in order to feed blood to all of these muscles that he has. So, and then by the same token, you have someone who's very slim, they have a lot of stamina, that's their strength, but by the same token, now you have someone who's much stronger than them. So the idea is more balanced because the thing that you think is superior, built into this thing that's superior is its weakness. This thing that you're calling inferior, built into the thing. This is one of the fundamental flaws of Manichean dualism. When we talk about Manichean dualism, there's this prophet, as they refer to him, called Mani, out of what we now know as modern day Iran, or Iran as some say. And he had this philosophy that you have this one thing that is all good and its opposite is all evil. The good, they said, is light. Of course, they didn't consult the Songhai people. They said the good is light and then the bad is dark. But even in that, you have to look at the complementary sides of these things, because the more you are in the light, the darker you become. The more you are in the dark, the lighter you become. So you have to see the complements of even that thing. But anyway, just to explain this, they say this one is all good, this one is all evil. It's very much the same idea of Christianity. And the way they get that thought into African people is just introduce you to God exists and devil exists. They can just do that, put that in your head, and you are automatically thinking that Eurasian that replicates itself ad infinitum, right? That node, as soon as it gets into you, it replicates, because then you start to see everything in that type of thing. Here's one thing that's all good, here's one thing that's all evil. If, again, from our worldview as African people, if Nyame is hidden inside of everything, or even in their worldview, they say that God, quote unquote, is omnipresent, right? So if God is omnipresent, this means that God is present also in hell, and in the devil, and in the heart of the devil, and in the mind, and in the eyeball, and in the ear. You understand? So these are the contradictions that their worldview are fundamentally, from the very basic building blocks, is flawed. But you have to also understand the context in which that worldview came up. Because if you look at from the instructions of Mary Carré, we're talking about 4,000 years ago, here are African people in Kemet trying to explain why Eurasians, those from Europe and Asia, Eurasia, behave the way they do. And they ascribe it to their environment. They say, lo, the miserable Asiatic, he's wretched because of the place he's in, short of water, bare of wood, his paths are many and difficult because of mountains, that he can snatch from a lonely road but cannot seize from a populous town. He's like a crocodile on the shore. He's like a thief that darts about in the group. But it's explaining all of these behaviors that Eurasians have even to this day. Everywhere they went, they did the same thing. Australia, Tasmania, Hispaniola, everywhere they committed genocide. But it's explaining the reason why they do that is because of a place where they're in that is short of resources. This is what Cheikh Anta Diop came up with the two cradle theory and cultural unity of Black Africa, civilization of barbarism, several others. He ascribes Eurasian behavior to their environment. Now let's look at their proverbs. In their own proverbs as primary sources, they say things such as might makes right, only the strong survive, survival of the fittest. This means if I'm in a place where there are very few resources, if I'm a caveman, I have a bigger club. If I can hit you, then I get your resources. I can eat your children, right? So this is that type of environment that we're looking at. So again, if we're looking at this type of scenario, then you come up with a being that will behave just as we have seen out in the real world. Now, what happens when you allow that type of being and you teach them? Thales, the first philosopher, came to Kemet to study. Solon, the one who first came up with laws, the lawgiver, came to Kemet to study. Pythagoras, we can go down the line of all of them. So you allow them to come in, because when we're talking about wisdom, we're talking about learning from knowledge coming from experience. Now, it's hard to have experience before you experience it once. Right now, we can have the experience to have 20/20 hindsight and say, we know what happens the last time we came in and we let them come in and taught them all these things. We didn't know that when the Greeks were coming in, but we know 20/20 hindsight, we allowed all those Greeks to come in. They came as the ones who ended the civilization of Kemet. After that, then the Romans. After the Romans, then the Germans, Anglo-Saxons, so forth and so on.
So as you said, to every weakness there is a strength, and to every strength there is a weakness. So the environmental weakness became the
social
what they use as their strength.
dominate.
And this is the interesting thing, is that now these same pale white Eurasians, they were in the dark for long, that's how they become light. We're in the light for long, that's how we become dark. Now, the other side of it is that now Eurasians are trying to make everyone suffer what they suffered in those caves, right? By convincing us that we don't have enough resources. The resource mainly is money. So you would have to be very skilled to die of hunger in Ghana, because I can walk down and I'll see mango just falling from the tree. I can go and see contomere just growing on the side of the road. I would have to really apply myself if I wanted to die of hunger here in Ghana. But
if they have to be mentally unstable.
Yes.
Disabled.
Right.
Not.
But even there's a limit to how mentally unstable you are, because they still know they need to eat. It's like, I'm not that crazy, because everyone who doesn't know that is already dead. You understand? But now if we come back to this, what they've done is said there's not enough of a resource, it's called money. As soon as you get this viral node into you that you don't have enough of something, then you can trigger off something where you start to think only might makes right, survival of the fittest, only the strong survive. So picture us as African people. We've been living near rhinos for 4 million plus years. We've been living near elephants for 4 million plus years. We have proverbs about elephants. You have people who know hunters who are hunting elephants and so, but now you can't get them unless they're in a reserve. If you look at documentaries where they're trying to save the rhino, you have Africans, they're African skin, everything genetically, whatever is African, but you've had this Eurasian consciousness triggered off. You don't have enough of a resource. It's called money. So now what do? You cut off what you've been doing for the past 4 million years, and within 50 years, you'll take a chainsaw and saw the face of the rhino off and leave the rest of it. From a place of, we don't let anything go to waste.
Poverty-mindedness.
Exactly.
Instead of an abundance mindset, that there's really enough for everybody.
Right. And the way to do that is to give you a false paradigm if you don't have enough of something. In undergrad, we were learning in psychology about B.F. Skinner, the Skinner box, where he would take rats. He would put some in a place where there's enough water, there's food, they have a little wheel they can run on, everything is fine. They never have any conflict. But then he would put another one where you have all these rats piled on top of each other. There's not enough water, there's not enough food. And matter of fact, at the dungeons at Anamasa, what we now call Elmina, if you go into the male dungeon, you walk into the right, you go to the male dungeon, you see at the top is a trap door. They stopped saying this during the tours, but the door is still there. They said what the Portuguese used to do is that they would take one loaf of bread. Now all these people who used to eat out of a communal bowl, let's all eat together, mezaka, or whatever, that they would let them all get hungry, then they would throw one loaf of bread and laugh as the people are struggling. So this is how you create only the strong survive, might makes right, all these types of things. Put them into a Eurasia type of environment where it's desert and tundra, glacier, and then give them very little resources. Watch how they fight for survival, because that's the first law of nature, only the strong survive. Not the first law of nature, just you want to survive.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a reason for that, because you believe you have to manifest your encrabia. So your encrabia is manifested. You don't think you've done. So you need to have that defense mechanism to preserve.
I would say that it's less of a conscious thing than even a subconscious thing, because even if someone is choking you out, you're not necessarily thinking, oh my, like those are very lofty thoughts. They're saying, I want to exist. Even, to have a child, there's something inside of you that makes you see a woman or something. So we're talking about something that's very essential, just because if there's every creature that didn't think that way doesn't exist anymore. You understand? So for you to even continue life, you have to have some type of drive to say, I want to exist, and I want my progeny to exist. So now, let's come back to what we were dealing with. So now you're looking at these Eurasians. So from this situation that we're in, we are now going through, they're now subjecting us to, through central banks and so forth and so on, what they went through. So now we have to come to a place of how can we turn this. And this is why the study of their history is useful, because if you look at where they were compared to us, look at the Greeks compared to Africans and Kemet, much less look at where the Germans, Visigoths and Vikings and the Anglo-Saxon or whatever, that if you look at how wide that gap was, it's much wider than the gap between continental Africans or diasporan Africans and Eurasians, right? I got the same laptop as you got. I got access to the same, you understand? So there's a disconnect, but it's not so far. So if we can see how Eurasians were able to bridge this huge gap in order to eventually be seen. Now what they like to do is act like the beginning of history started right here. You understand? And then you don't have any precedent to see, well, how can I do anything about this situation?
Not all Eurasians are conscious. That's why I like using the chessboard analogy of kings and queens, which are able to do moves which think many steps ahead, right? There are the pawns within the Eurasian context. The pawns who are being moved around, right? So really the pawns are as ignorant as the rest of us.
This is why I would say that what the pawns and what the king and what the queen have in common is that they all want to exist. This is what they have in common. So this is where it comes to a subconscious place. So let's say you are a black man, you went to school, you're educated, so forth. You go talk to one of the pawns, and then you say Kemet is black. Just as a knee-jerk reaction, no, it wasn't. You understand? If there are certain things that just automatically, it's just an inside thing. No, this can't be allowed. This can't be permitted. And it's not even a conscious thing, but what is at a subconscious, visceral almost level is that I want to exist. And if this is allowed in, then perhaps I won't exist anymore. So, we were talking outside before, are they even, like to me, that's even a diversion. What is in common? Whether pawn, king, rook, bishop, whatever, that all of them at the end of the day they want to survive.
See, so when you look at the, as you said, fence being.
Just real quick, let me land on this. And they just have different techniques of how they will go about surviving. Some think the best way to survive is being mean to you. Some think the best way to survive is being nice to you. Because when they're nice to you, then you'll say, look, some of them are nice. Let's not, get justice on what they've done to us. So they just have different methods of ensuring
reproductive.
Exactly. And one of the ways is that they don't want justice to be done, because there's a proverb in Chi, "Dia ochucha amene na osro ayayada." Dia ochucha amene na osro ayayada. Semeda ayaya. What you say? Nti misro sɛ meda ɛsan sɛ matwitwa amene saa na afei de obi abɛɛ mi bi hwan wɔ hɔ obi anɔ ɛwɔ a wɔtibua na abo wɔ fɔ wɔtibua nkasa na abo wɔ fɔ.
And that's very true.
So this is the thing for those of us who would like to see Ma'at. Now Ma'at is truth, justice, propriety, order, balance, harmony, reciprocity as the 7 cardinal virtues. So one of those is balance, one of those is justice. But you see, everything is to make sure at all costs there's not justice. You have to get as many nuclear weapons as possible. Why? because something called justice may exist. The woman who is in the elevator and sees you come in and grabs her purse, she thinks that there's something called justice that exists in the world. She thinks you should be doing something to her. She thinks based on everything I've done, you should be grabbing. You should beat me to death with this
Or
purse.
she has been conditioned to believe that, right? So just as you said,
even though you don't want to do anything, perhaps.
yes, you
Right.
don't want to do.
Right.
So just like you talked about the bread thing, bread, people who should know how to have grown up and collaborated with each other. They're so hungry that you drop the bread. Now they got to give themselves
Survival
and
mechanism.
struggle. Yeah, survival mechanism. Don't you think that even we can take it to infinity? That even blacks and whites, again, something is being dangled for us to have that sense. That scarcity mindset, because now it's a matter of scarcity on a different macro level, above race, trying to create division through a poverty consciousness. You see what I mean? So you can keep going up and up. So which will mean that as part
And
of
then when
this
you
cycle,
get to the highest point, who is there?
so as part of this cycle, so maybe the cycle, right? That condition is an integral part of the cycle. Maybe that condition makes the cycle go round, right? So it is inherent in the cycle. So the cycle may not exist if that condition does not exist. We may not evolve as human beings if that condition does not exist, right? So that's the reason why I guess I was indoctrinated in Achimota school, where our mission was that all may be one, right? You look at the piano keys, the black and the white keys. You play only on the white keys. The white keys don't sound as good as when you play on the black keys too, right? So I'm always looking for a paradigm which ultimately looks at the manifestation of God, right? He is all in all. Nyame is all in all, right? Nyame is all in all.
Yes.
So Nyame is ultimately the perfect symphony of all things. When all things become one, Nyame is manifest. So in the same vein, when all things, all living entities or non-living entities, all sentient and non-sentient beings become one, Nyame is manifest. Right? So essentially it's kind of like a refinery cycle.
This is the thing, all things are already one.
But not in our consciousness.
All things were one. So this is the thing, even when we talk about that primordial waters, that time is seen as a time of chaos. But inside of the chaos, you can see the order, because at that point in time, it was very clear that everything is one. Nothing exists but all this primeval water. In science, they say it was plasma, right? So we're talking about Big Bang. This is a Dogon creation story now. You have a Big Bang. At that point, according to science, that it was so hot that gas particles didn't exist. It was something that you could liken to a liquid, like a plasma, and that's all that there was. You know, atoms and all these things hadn't even congealed yet to become something. And you're talking about milliseconds of a point in time where this is happening. Now, at that point in time, everything was just one thing. Now we're talking about all of these things are in order, even male and female coming together. This is all part of an order that's existed ever since that beginning time. But now things seem like they're no longer one.
So we've lost that consciousness of oneness.
Now, if we're talking about justice, if we're talking about balance, things were also one when 200 million Africans were being put into the biggest graveyard on the planet, which was the Atlantic Ocean. Everything was still one then.
But not in the consciousness of man and woman.
And things were being taken out of balance. So now the question becomes, how do things come back into balance? Now, to some degree, that's going to happen regardless of whether we like it or not, and we're actually seeing this. So a couple of weeks ago, I gave a talk on what they call the Great Month and the Great Year. These are these cycles, right? Now, the one that we're going into is the time of water. In ancient times, Kemet, they would have called it the time of Hapi. So this is when the waters are rising. Now, what happens in this time is that we're expecting waters to rise, and this is exactly what's happening.
Is that the age of Aquarius or something?
Right, that's what in the Greek terminology, it would be the age of Aquarius. Now, what's happening right now, just last year, they said that a piece of Antarctica is broken off, and it's the size of the state of Rhode Island. So what's going to happen when that state of Rhode Island size ice goes out into open ocean, it will melt, water levels rise throughout the world. Now all these places, for example, places that were also ports where Africans were being enslaved, so forth and so on, all of those are going, Accra is going underwater, Rio de Janeiro is going underwater, Amsterdam, New York, Charleston, you name it, all these places are going underwater as well. So regardless of whether you like balance or not like balance, things have to be balanced because things are right now very much out of balance. So even though things were one at the time that things were being out of balance, things are also one now. Things were one before,
Yeah.
But how do you see them as one? And then also, what is your role in restoring justice? If unjust things have happened, then what is your role in restoring justice? What needs to be done about injustice that was done previously? What needs to be done about imbalances that were done previously? So things are one, things were one then, things are one now. Everything is just transforming. So all of those Africans, those 200 million Africans at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, that they've transformed into other things. But then other people say, well, look at the hurricanes, they're all coming from the west coast of Africa. That's something going on there. That's for that one I can't speak to, I can't prove it, I don't have evidence for it. But again,
that's what I used to tell my colleagues in New Orleans. They asked me, why do all these hurricanes come? I was like, well, our ancestors are mad at you, and they're looking for the bald-headed man because they're hell bald. But that is, and can we are in Caribbean as individuals
and collectively,
and our conscious alignment with the Caribbean has a lot to do with the rate of restoration of balance, right? So there's the equilibrium and all that being established, but we are actors, and the rate of the reestablishment of equilibrium has to do with whether we are in alignment with the Caribbean, right? So we are the creators of the new balance of the new world order. I'll call it a new world order, right? We are the creators of the new world order, and our insight into whether we actuate that has a lot to do with having clarity on our Caribbean. And that's why this will ultimately, what's a factor? You talked about Aquarius, the base.
Écoussia.
All right.
Écoussia. This is one of the praise names of Wednesday born female.
So that's what I'm looking for. Like, I'm on a mission to assemble to help build that critical écoussia. All right. And I'm a Tuesday born. I bring passion and drive to the écoussia. And that passion and drive is...
Are you married to a female born on Wednesday?
That's, my wife is called Aquia. I'm trying to remember exactly. She told me that the Aquia, so this is one of the examples where she wasn't born on Bukwada, but she was named after a grandmother who was born on Bukwada. So she may be.
She has the same Nkrabia that she had the first time that she came here. So she retains the same name and the same Kradim that she had from the first time, regardless of what day she happened to be born on this time around.
So that's interesting. So I worked in oil and gas, for example. I was in the Portuguese version of Cape Coast in Escravos. Escravos means the slaves in Nigeria. It is where Chevron's oil terminal is. And I had an epiphany anytime I went to that space, I could feel something. And my response to that was to avail myself to serve the people who are enslaved. And it even got brought into the fact that the enslaved people, they cut across nations, they cut across, right, because they are enslaved within their consciousness, right? So that's how I kicked off from a conventional path of electrical engineering to come into an unconventional path of being a part of building this. I'm sure I won't claim credit.
I started off in mechanical engineering.
Seriously,
this is where I am now.
No wonder the way you think, right? Because guess what? It was part of your preparation. It wasn't accidental, right? So we are builders. Engineers are builders, right? So you have a builder's mind, you have an architect's mind. So now is the time to architect a new paradigm which will bring about, well, the new world order is happening, but to be able to harness it, we need to be architecting our nation, our education, in a way which would allow us to consciously take a leap, because in the ensuing transition, there is great opportunity. There's great opportunity for us to take a quantum leap, so that by the time the transition ends, the positions are different. And this is where nations are.
This is an interesting point. So I mentioned like a couple of weeks ago, I was giving a talk on the Great Month, Great Year. Now what this is essentially, in Kemet and other cultures, they have this idea of as above, so below. So on the equinoxes, this is where it's an equal amount of hours in the day and in the night. So the sun rises on this particular day and there's a constellation in the background. So in the morning, right before the sun rises, you can see a constellation there on the horizon. Then the sun rises, then of course you're not seeing the stars that are there. But on these equinoxes, on these solstices, people would look and see what's there. So when we're talking about these ages, we're talking about right now the age of Pisces, so it's represented by the fish. In Kemet they refer to as MTU, so the age of the fish. During this particular age, you see Christianity with a lot of fish symbolism. So this is where you're talking about harnessing. So those who have a lot of fish symbolism, you see this Jesus fish on the back of cars or whatever. All this fish symbolism in the Bible, giving out fish and blah, 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 fishermen. So they've really harnessed this fish age that we're in. If you look before that age, you have the age of the ram. So the ram was represented by Amen. So what you saw on the ground was Waset, which was the main center of Amen. That's where they had the temple to Amen, the largest spiritual structure in the history of the entire world was the temple of Amen, and that was the major power center in Kemet. So the ones who are harnessing the age of the ram type of thing, those are the ones who are also in power on the ground. Before that, you had the age of the bull. That was represented by Asar and Ptah. And at that point in time, Unu was the major center, and that's the center where you had Ptah being propitiated, you had Asar being propitiated. So those who were in alignment with that bull, everything, those were the ones who were in power on the ground. Before that, you had the age of the twins. This is when Kemet was still in two lands. It hadn't yet been united. So basically what it all goes into is whatever is going on there is what you see a mirror of going on here. So that's why they built temples in alignment with the stars, because the idea is that we're supposed to be in alignment here with what's going on up there. Benjamin Banneker, there's a scholar, Anthony Browder. He goes into this tour, Egypt on Potomac. So Benjamin Banneker, the black man who laid out Washington, D.C., he did all of these things in alignment with stars.
That's amazing, right?
Exactly. So when you're talking about masonry, you're talking about people who dealt with these hermetic principles and things of that nature. Hermes being, basically a transposed version of Jehuti. So Jehuti was a counterpart to Ma'at. Ma'at is truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, order, balance, reciprocity. And then Jehuti was the masculine aspect, which dealt with science, calculation, counting, all of these, writing, all of these types of things. So they went together. So you're talking about engineering, Now, when we're talking about the age that we're looking at coming into and harnessing, basically anytime you had Isfet, this is chaos, you had an attempt by the Africans on the ground to restore Ma'at. So examples were when the Hyksos, these are what we now refer to as Hebrews, that came in as invaders, that when you had, they came as invaders, conquerors, destroyers, and then eventually they were defeated and driven out, right? Now the story that we get isn't that story, but when you can read the original text, you can see, no, they came as invaders. It's not, oh, we were enslaved, let my people go. No, they came as invaders. Eventually the very first war of African liberation was against these Hyksos who came in and were driven out. That's the Exodus. So when you have this, you have people who are trying to restore Ma'at, because during this time people are being raped, killed, slaughtered, and so forth and so on. In the stories they said that people have to go out to the field with a shield. Farmers have to go out to their farms with a shield just to protect themselves, you understand? So they give a vivid description of what Isfet is like, and it's very much like what we live in today.
Yeah, I mean, we're experiencing the last kick of the fish paradigm.
Right.
And that's what's going on in the United States. The last kick, the dying kick of the fish paradigm. So just like it has swung that way, there's going to be a huge swing in the other way in the ensuing years.
For the ones who harness this.
Yes.
Because the fish paradigm didn't have to come out the way that it's come out right now. In the same way the water paradigm didn't have to come out this way, because there's so much fresh water under the Sahara Desert. That could have been what this whole thing is about, instead of people trying to, this is the thing, if we look at enslavement, if we look at oil, if we look at all these things, basically we're coming back to this creation story, that within our local neighborhood, all the energy is coming from the sun. So even when you're looking at oil, you're looking at trees and plants that have locked up sun's energy, that have gotten underwater, turned into sludge, and now you're trying to re-harness the sun's energy in a different way.
So now we'll go more direct rather than we'll go to the source rather than the secondary.
And the same thing, whoever channels the energy of the sun, because again, the ones who are in the light are the ones who are darkest. Look at enslaving all these millions and millions of people. You're basically enslaving the sun's energy. The names of the rulers, Ra-Misses, saying born of the sun. You know, Ra, anything you're talking about Ra, you're talking about the sun. So basically they're bragging about how black they are, how dark they are, and so forth and so on. But again, it goes into these ideas about completion, incompletion. If you look at the Dogon creation story, they say that Ogo, this was you have all these 8 twins, but Ogo was a twin who was incomplete, because in its rush to possess its female twin, it burst out of its placenta. Now, in order to try to restore balance, this placenta was transformed into the earth, but then still looking out to try to find its female twin. It dug into the earth, but that was its mother, and in doing so, its hands were transformed into claws, and it became this pale fox, right? So just this idea about completion, incompletion. So Ogo, which is now the pale fox, is seen as an incomplete being. This is Moremba Ani's book, Yurugu, again explaining Eurasian behavior due to this type of worldview, this paradigm and understanding. But all of this, to come back around to today's lesson, because we've been around. This is basically an overview of various things that we're covering.
It's critical for us to understand how the next age, the people who have been at the bottom are positioned for the next age, and to me, that's how I'm seeing the Institute of African Studies. I'm seeing that at the conception of this place, there was a grand vision for this place. And I believe that this place is about to come into its own. And it's not accident. You see, things happen within the context of order and inquiry. It's not accident that you are here, right? And this place will also go through a renaissance. And why I'm here is African Diaspora Nation is an organization which was birthed, a virtual nation of people of African descent everywhere, before they talk about Black Panther or Wakanda, right? Now using technology, we can really be a virtual nation of people of African descent or people who love Africa globally. But we need an intellectual think tank that we are attached to. So that's part of why I'm here trying to build partnerships and officially bring the IAS into the consortium, officially as a place where the think tanks would be. And then we create a paradigm where we will recruit people like you in various disciplines, engineering, architecture, philosophy, and have them all, if they're not here, they network technologically to collaborate. Right? That's my vision for being here. Anyway, that I'll share.
It's a very good vision because, you know, as I was saying, it's not necessarily all in the bag that the next age is just going to be, you know, walk in the park or anything like that.
One day.
Yeah, that's
I may involve for the masses, it may involve the creation of a new operating system. I don't call it a religion. Right? It may involve the creation of an evolved operating system that positions itself as the superintendent paradigm for all other operating systems or religions. So that superintendent paradigm would suck in the essential principles of the various ages, whether it's Christianity, whether it's there are some essential principles which run across all these ages, right? So this superintendent paradigm must be able to suck, right? It's like a metal gold detector, right? It should be able to suck what is essential and separate it from what is dross, what is political, what is colonizing. It should be able. So it's within that paradigm that we can really carry everybody who means well along, irrespective of color and all that. Right? It's within the superintendent, and that's how I see that Adinkra symbols. Because Adinkra symbols are not written down, right? So they capture the essence, they capture the energy. For that symbol to be corrupted, it will be visual. It will be a visual corruption of that symbol. But once you start going into text, right, then the opportunity to inject it with the viral stuff comes in. So to me, the superintendent paradigm would be.
That can also be done orally. So like if you, so Jinyami, the original proverb is, Abodia Santan if they take your winter, no name Shasi, no international Cosineria Jinyami. That what you have people saying now is, in Surubia Jinyami, fear no one but God, which is a very Eurasian paradigm, because for African people, you're not supposed to be afraid of Onyami. The idea is that you are following your Krabia. But even with this, they've given you a different context. They've given you the same Jinyami, but they've removed what the beginning of the Jinyami was and replaced it with a very Eurasian paradigm of what now they would like Jinyami to be. You mentioned Renaissance as well, and since you did, I wanted to bring this up. This is one of the names of Amenemhat Wahim Mesut, the one who has repeated births. This is the earliest attestation of this idea of Renaissance, to repeat births. Right? And this was one of the names of the ruler. It was seen that his period in time was a period where you have a renaissance, a repetition of births. But let's do this. We'll come back and look at these things. So we're looking at how different language represents a different worldview and ontology. So if I'm saying Onyame, I have particular thoughts. If you say God, specific thoughts may come out, a lot of conceptual baggage. So first he. That's like automatic.
Like I'm doing.
Exactly, not intentionally, not even consciously, but as soon as you say God, there's a whole worldview associated with this term. That again, when you have this Manichean dualism, one thing is good, its opposite is evil all the time. So man is good, woman is evil. White is good, black is evil, so forth and so on. If you combine everything they say is good together, then you get the Jesus on the back of the turtle. Blonde hair, blue-eyed white man. You understand? But that's not a universal worldview at all. So again, a different language represents a different worldview and ontology. A view of the types of beings and things that exist in the world is what we're talking about. We're talking about ontology. what exists, what is real. You understand? The way you see that is different depending on even what language you're speaking. So I can be the same person, but it's almost like I undergo spirit possession when I'm speaking this language, because built into the English is black is bad, white is pure, snow, blah, blah, blah. So African worldview primarily dynamic and interactive more than static isolationist. So again, this is the idea of it's not a discontinuous revelation like a Bible or a Quran. This is it, this is the beginning, this is the end, that's it. As opposed to the idea that there's revelation every day. The idea that creation is something that existed way back in the beginning. No, in the African worldview, creation is every time you and your wife have a child. Every time this masculine plant and this feminine plant produce another fruit, that's a continuation of creation. Anytime this dog gives birth to puppies, creation is ongoing, right? And again, it's coming back to the idea of Onyamin Shishe. Again, we gave the proverb Muntungu Buntunga Bantu, a human is a human because of humans. They usually translate that as I am because we are. I think Ubuntu. I think that the actual, what it's actually saying is more profound. A human is a human because of humans. That's exactly what it's saying, word for word.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it goes into this idea of interrelations, how things relate, how they are relative, and how they are relevant, the 3 R's. And in Chi, they say, what do you want Sanka and Nancy Tintaya? Now, it pusuni nina. So if you touch the spot as well, it pusu nina. After the
ocean goes everywhere.
Ebia won. After the Onyamini Mrani Baku, Anansi Kokroko. Anansi Kokroko. If I say, a body na, I say, 10 times. 10 times.
Our body and to say 10 times. So we are an interconnected web.
From Anansi.
Anansi. Sunny affair on Yami from Anansi Coco. If you don't to Paframa, if you don't to Bonsu, if you don't as a way about one and Massa and Jim a dead. As I say, Abia, who to Fambo, digging oil. Now, and on a say and so chine, that's how we call ice and so chine and so chine. I say and so chine, oh baby. Abia, bro, what shall I say? No, when you say, and then you are
yeah.
What I say, and so they are Kosoa. I bet say, I dare Kosoa. I feel you go home so strong. Sana Genetia. I feel the work I say, Abia and Stroma, and will chitty and fash she, I will. Also, but I wish I stand from an affidavit which wrote and rinse them. In some more, hey, who said, I dare wait chitty now.
It's inspiring.
I
dear reality on the ground. Yes.
And I know you're interest walking.
Yeah.
Also, I dear who said, yeah, oh, chili to set ya. That's what me says, and the mark also. Abia and Bra, who share in Solomon, and Bra, and Kawi Chaquine, now Uncle Shem.
So this content, what I was thinking about from a media perspective is making this content animated, taking advantage of latest in audio-visual technology, virtual reality, augmented reality, so that these concepts are translated into visual and they become part of the stories which go into the narratives we teach our children. Right? Because to me, the key is strategizing on how we permeate the popular culture with these powerful, well-being impacting perspectives.
Who say a previa me Chadiana, me Sinona 12 feet and 10 times on Tiafidi and Nipa and Vance in Pim do the Abrosa and Moshe also at us to chance. And she said, oh, can I immediately say, no, you're a dream. So the bear, you been Sanyamono. Who say, and she share what says here, a Gina say, Mobian, I'll be before I dream. What I said, she say, yeah, Catawani, and I say, when one or what I said. Now, so a bride, you might a daddy. Yeah, I just said, yeah, and she share no, a Gina sono into me in Gina.
Yeah. And that strengthens this place. Now this becomes a Timbuktu of a new order.
I was, yeah, I was looking at it as a, you talk, people have problem with me. They think, oh, you attend church and you talk this way. Then I'll tell them that no, I attend church, but then I believe in the concept of Christ, which is different from what my pastor tells me. But I found out that today my people are ready to get up every morning, Sunday, and you took in the numbers to go to the church. So if I stay, I'll have opportunity to one day tell them a truth. Rather than to say, no, I'm not going there at all.
Yeah, you need to infiltrate, you need to be
I'm not going there at all.
In contact, because it becomes a matter of strategy. Now that you know the truth, how do you strategically, just like strategically we were permeated. They didn't come, it wasn't a button head thing, it was insidious, surreptitious.
Yeah.
So when you come to know the truth, it requires strategic paradigms. All right, and the strategic paradigm to me needs to be something that people will take pride in. That's why I value that in symbols. People value them for the aesthetics, not for the philosophical dimension. So, to me, the superintendent paradigm in all faiths, right? Because when you construct this and you elevate it to the standard, then it is going to magnetize. There are truths, there are true principles in all faiths. It is when it comes to interpretation, as well as a corruption of parts of the text, right? So, truth will resonate with truth, right? It's the concept of resonance. So, create this stuff. So, we are creators. Christianity, all those things were created by enlightened people, right? Who wanted to capitalize on, so you can create, if you can create a computer program, Apple created iOS, Google created Android, they are operating systems. Before all this started, there was a higher level of coding of human minds. Coding existed a long time ago, right? So we need to ascend to that consciousness of vessels or instruments of that high level architecture and start architecting paradigms which are conscious of the effect of these paradigms which have prevailed over time, whether it's Christianity, Islam, all those things, right? A superintendent paradigm which is strategically placed not to confront.
Exactly. So I was, my point was the cave in the plateau. The people know Christianity alone. They know Christianity alone. So when I have a grandmother who is a traditional priest, okay, so you are close to your grandmother, you do everything, and at a point in time, I was last 2 years, so I will be there to her house. And then my person, you this, so I asked, it's a simple question. If you were not born here, where we were Christianized, and you were born in Saudi Arabia, would you be a Christian or a Wahhabi Muslim? So why then do you want to think that what my grandmother is doing is bad? When she tells me that she gave birth to 4 kids, all of them died, 3 guys, and then left with my old mother alone, and said, if you still don't do it, she will also die. And she accepted the training, and then my mother survived. What kind of logic? So you want me to, so the logic is that if she had not even accepted, that means that I shouldn't even be here in the first place. So why do you want me to hate mine?
Muntunga Bantu.
So the key thing is that we said in everything, God is hidden in everything. Yeah, that's always Yami is hidden
Yeah, I didn't say God, I said
Nyame.
Nyame.
It's hidden.
What I want us to do is also just look at the etymology of God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not just become more conscious, look at the etymology of God and then see, is that the equal sign, is there equivalency between Nyame
Equalization,
and God?
trying to make everything in our
Because
we have the
because what happens is that their concept obliterates our own.
Yeah.
We start saying, okay, so God, Nyame, and then Nyame becomes a white man in the sky, basically. We start saying he. So there's so much conceptual baggage that comes up with just this word, and this is one of the most insidious words that is out there.
When it comes to communication with others, yeah, I totally understand the point you're making. I think in 2 stages, how I assimilate and how I transmit, given where the people are.
There's a good book called Nkombo Yeminyanya. Nkombo Yeminyanya. It's written in Isixhosa originally, but I got it, of course, in translation because I don't read Isixhosa fluently. But it's about a young man who goes off to school, and he is, a crown prince. He's to be the ruler, so he comes back to rule, and he keeps having all of these issues with the other people because they're backwards to him, they're whatever. So he goes to see another ruler from the neighboring, people, and the ruler says, there are 2 kinds of herders here in South Africa, and he gives examples. One is in Mise, and he says, among these people, the way they herd is that they go and back up the cattle, and they have, sticks to prod, and then you prod them along, and as you're beating them, then the cows, the herds, they know where to go. And some among these other people, they do it differently, that they run out in front, and then they whistle. From the sounds of their whistle, then the cows know where to go. Now he says, imagine if you had, a person who is from this group, and then you send them to go herd the cows of that group. Now he's running off in front, he gets all the way to the top of the mountain, he turns around, no one is there. He said, imagine the other side, you take someone who's here, and then you put them behind the cows are waiting, they're like, okay, when is he going to show us the way? And I think about leadership in terms of these 2 models, not one is good and the opposite is bad, but let's look at this. Usually the one that I prefer is to lead by example. So if I say let's do this, it helps because you have certain types of people who they see you in the bar getting drunk right with them. They're like, why are we going to listen to you? Then you got other people who will look at that same person and say, oh, you think you're better than me? How come you can't come down to the bar with me? So you have different types of people who are going to have different types of people grab, just like the stars. You pull in certain types of stardust and you become a red giant. You pull in different type of stardust, you become a white dwarf or whatever. So all of these different, and then different stages of the development of the star as well, but that just is an example. So, as even earlier you were talking about infiltrating and things like that, that's not what I would do. What I would do is I would show people this is what we should do. I'm leading by example. What someone else would do is say, I'm going to get behind the people and I'm going to lead from behind. Now you have certain people who will look at you and say, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. You read 1,000 books, I've read 0 books, but all your behaviors are mine, why am I going to listen? But then there are some who will say, that's the reason why I'm going to listen to you.
But the people who are doing the leadership are open-minded enough to know that at the core, I believe we all believe we have the same worldview, but because the people are segmented into different so I think I will borrow a Christian
it's complementary.
A shepherd, and it's so when Jesus said, "I have many more shepherds. I have many more sheep.
There are more sheep.
There are more sheep than
who need to be brought into
who need to be brought into the
pen,
the fold or something."
Or fold.
So he was saying that there are other paradigms out there. It may have been talking about the Ashanti. It would have been Nyame speaking, right? Maybe Nyame, it was the voice of Nyame who is saying there are other paths, and there's a Jesus equivalent or an equivalent of him in different cultures, expressed in different ways.
Exactly.
Maybe it was Okomfuanoche for the Asante people. Right? Maybe he was the Christed one within the consciousness of Ashanti people. Because you find out what was he shooting for? Oneness. And how did he accomplish it? Through the golden stool. Right? What did Jesus pray he was shooting for? Oneness in John 17:7. That they may be one. Just as we are, you and me, essentially the oneness of all things. So if you start looking at effect, the impact, what are they shooting? Are they shooting for division or they're shooting for unity? If the people are shooting for unity based on the foundation of love, then we can, there can be communication, because I believe love is that network or consciousness which, right? So so the Mormons may have their own paradigm. They create, it is a man-made paradigm, right?
Just really quick, not to cut you off, but just in terms of the concept, there's a book called 16 Crucified Saviors Before Christ.
16 Crucified,
by Kersey Graves. And what it actually goes into is that the story of Christ itself is plagiarized from these stories, because they're all talking about the sun. You're talking about 12 disciples, you're talking about 12 constellations. You're talking about God on the cross. You're talking about the crux, Southern Crux constellation. You're talking about born on December 25th. You're talking about the winter solstice. You're talking about Easter. You're talking about the spring equinox. So all of these things, the reason why you have these stories in these different cultures is because everyone's looking at the sun doing the exact same thing every year. So you're talking about that which saves, that which brings about your crops and so forth and so on. It's coming from there. But not to cut off this line of thinking, I wanted us to continue, and I'll give you several different books: Christianity Before Christ, Pagan Origins of the Christ Myth, 16 Crucified Saviors Before Christ. Now all of this information was out in the 1870s, but not too much of it has filtered to us here in Ghana, but it's quite old information. But I wanted to come here as well because we mentioned the Greeks as well, and I wanted to quote Plato. Now, Plato says, one ought to declare then that the freeborn children, he's talking about among the Greeks, should learn as much of these subjects as the innumerable crowd of children in Egypt learn along with their letters. So he's saying that he wants the Greeks to learn as much of these subjects as the people in Kemet, which means land of black people. And then Clinius asks him, what ignorance do you mean? Because Plato goes on to say that Athens is ignorant, the Greeks are ignorant. He says, my dear Clinius, when I was told quite lately of our condition in regard to this matter, talking about education among the Greeks, he says, I was utterly astounded myself. It seemed to me to be the condition of guzzling swine rather than of human beings, and I was ashamed not only of myself but of all the Greek world. So again, this is Plato, who we're all told to idolize, but he's saying that to get a real education, an education to make you more human, you have to go to the land of black people, because the education of the Greeks is the education of swine. So this isn't me saying it, this is Plato saying it.
Now, can we be the land of black people is perceived as the source of all things, right? So all things came out of the land of black people, if science is to be believed, right? So it's essentially saying go to source, go back to source and learn. Yes, go back to source. Everybody go back to source, whether it's Chinese and all that. And who knows, maybe they have maintained source within their own context. That's why they're where they are, because I believe the maintenance of source is tied to your developmental progress.
Now, the other thing is that this isn't separate from what we actually know from historical realities. So we allowed the Greeks to come, and then what happened to us because of that, and then what lessons are there to learn? So you allowed the Greeks to come to the source, they learned everything, they drank from the fountains, wisdom, so forth and so on. However, they came as your conquerors to destroy your civilization. So you have to look at your own culpability and your own destruction. You allowed who were to be your enemies to come in. And this is despite the fact that you had different paradigms of building walls to prevent your enemies from coming in. At a certain point, you allowed them to start coming in and learning freely. What ended up happening because of that? The end result, rape, murder, pillage, plunder, to the point that the descendants of those same people from the land of black people don't even know that they're related to them. to the point where people can quote me the Bible but can't quote instructions of Patahotep. You understand? There's something going on here. So if we're talking about moving into the next age in a state of having taken responsibility, we have to look at, there's a proverb in Chi, Okwasiana ne dwan te impreno. Okwasiana ne dwan te impreno. If I say, where are homa? Where they are born come? Where they are going to come? After that, we must say, or China or te ahoma. Now, I wouldn't need answer. What they say, ahoma na wasa, at the achievement in the come. Obi who I work as a what they are Kwasia, 77 say, where Kwasia. As I said, once young answer, 50 bra, would decline yes, I am. Who's young Yansa, and Kawubayano or Quine for Robiso.
Yes.
And none I will say it to me, General, when some per se. So this is now Aristotle, where it says, why are the Ethiopians and Egyptians bandy-legged? It's because of the bodies of living creatures become distorted by heat, like logs of wood when they become dry. Their condition of their hair supports this theory. He's talking about us. For it is curlier than that of other nations, and its curliness is, as it were, crookedness of the hair. So he's saying that basically he's saying that our bodies are black and like this, like logs of wood, and our hair is like this because of the sun. There's something to be said for that. Now, Herodotus, the Dodonians called the women doves because they were foreigners and seemed to them to make noise like birds. After a while, the dove spoke with a human voice because the woman, whose foreign talk had previously sounded to them like the chattering of a bird, acquired the power of speaking what they could understand. For how could it be conceived that a dove should really speak with the voice of a man? Lastly, by calling the dove black, the Dodonians indicated that the woman was an Egyptian. And certainly the character of the oracles at Thebes and Dodona is very similar. Besides this form of divination, the Greeks learned also divination by means of victims from the Egyptians. So again, you have the testimonials of all these Greeks who are saying the people of Kemet were of course black, which is why they call themselves Kemetiu, which just means black people. And now Diodorus Siculus. And there are also numerous other Ethiopian tribes besides those centered at Meroe. Some live along both sides of the river Nile and on the islands in the river. Others dwell in the regions that border on Arabia to the east. Others again have settled in the interior of Libya to the west. The majority of these tribes, in particular those who live along the river, have black skin, snub noses, and curly hair. Yeah, they're talking about us. However, we're not there anymore. The people who are there are the recent invaders after the spread of Islam. However, due to miseducation, diseducation, and anti-education, we think the way things are now are the way that they've always been. Luckily, we have the writing of our own ancestors. We have Medunetra class tomorrow, where we can actually read what our ancestors wrote down, where they said, yes, we are black people. If you just read their own words, there's no debate at all. If you read Plato, Diodorus, Herodotus, and everyone who was there at the time, there's no debate. There's only a debate among people who don't know anything, or those who do know something but want to make sure you don't know anything, because they see their self-preservation tied to you not knowing anything. We continue. This is Marco Polo. The whole of India is traversed by rivers, and as for the people of India, those in the south are like the Ethiopians in color, although they are like the rest in respect to countenance and hair, for on account of the humidity of the air, their hair does not curl, whereas those in the north are like the Egyptians. Now they relate to, this is again Diodorus, now they relate that all of the people, the Ethiopians, that of all people, the Ethiopians were the earliest, and they say that the proofs of this are clear, that they did not arrive as immigrants, but are the natives of the country, and therefore rightly called autochthonous, and almost universally accepted, that those who live in the south are likely to be the first engendered by the earth is obvious to all, for as it was the heat of the sun that dried up the earth while it was still moist at the time when everything came into being and caused life, they say it is probable that the region closest to the sun that first bore animate beings, that it was the region closest to the sun. So basically saying those who are closest to the equator are the ones who are most likely going to get life first, because all life is coming from the sun. And again, this is what the fossil evidence has shown for the most part. Again, Diodorus Siculus.
So, then with this, is it possible that present UK could have been occupied by blacks?
They just found it.
Yeah, they just found this fossil, the skeleton of Cheddar Man, and they did a reconstruction that showed that he was black as you.
Okay.
So what we're getting to is that the first inhabitants of every place was black. However, you had Eurasian invaders who came and overran all of the places. What we now know as India, what we now know as China, what we now know as Japan. Every place where you find non-black people is because they were invaded and overrun and destroyed and exterminated. Other places they were miscegenated into what they are now.
Now, wouldn't that have to be preceded by the concept of dual cradles of civilization?
No, that doesn't precede. So what we're talking about is you have black people in all of these different places, right? So where you have civilization, I think what you're talking about, the origin of human beings.
Yeah, because I mean, so is it an evolution? Do the white people evolve from an environmental process from black people?
This is the reconstruction they just did.
Yeah, the white people evolve from black people by virtue of environmental factors over time.
There are two things that go into it. One is genetics, which has an impact on phenotype, and then the other one is going into environment. There's a good explanation of this in a documentary series called Cosmos, where they go into artificial selection and natural selection. And the example he gives, this is Neil deGrasse Tyson, this astrophysicist. The example he gives to illustrate artificial selection is dogs. That you have certain dogs that weren't afraid of fire, that they were able to come closer to human beings. And then eventually they became adopted by human beings. From there, human beings decided who would survive and who wouldn't. If you bite my child, that's it for you. If you growl at my child, that's it for you. If you're friendly, if you're loyal, then I allow you to breed with this one. So basically going into every dog species that we have now is as a result of human beings making decisions of who survives and who doesn't survive. Coming essentially from what was wolves, wild wolves. That's artificial selection. Then an example of natural selection he gives is polar bears. So originally all bears were black bears, but you have certain bears that in their genetics they have what would be called a copying error. So the DNA is matching. Here this one doesn't match, it doesn't copy. And now this one comes out looking differently, not black, right? So when you have this now white bear, it comes out in a litter, or maybe one or two come out in a litter of otherwise black bears. But if they happen to be in an environment that's all white, covered with snow and ice, this thing that seemed to be an error now turns out to be something beneficial to them in that specific environment. If that happens to them on the equator in a dark place, it's not beneficial to them. But because it happens in this case, and then we can look at polar bears, Arctic foxes, Arctic hawks, Arctic wolves. Everything in the Arctic have this copying error, and the ones who happen to have a copying error are the ones that survived in that particular climate.
And the copying error needs to be from the perspective who is deciding that it is a copying error.
This is the thing.
Would you know that?
This is the thing, because even to say error, you're saying that this is something that is matching. If it's in a place where it's not beneficial, you may regard it as an error, but this is all human subjectivity of whether you want to call it an error. If you want to just use error in the sense of like syntax error, right? It's not a value judgment, it's just that this one didn't match with that one, and we could look at it that way. But regardless, we're just saying that this thing. Now, if you look at human beings, there's a specific gene called SLC24A5, and this is the single allele which is responsible for the most part in terms of human color. And what you have is a mutation from a chemical called alanine to a chemical called threonine. So the places where you find threonine is generally the exact place where you find those whose skin come out white. The place where you find the original alanine throughout the entire world, we're talking about Pacific Islands, Australia, Tasmania, anywhere black people are, this is where you have black people. So when you look at these two things, now coming back to Ma'at, justice and things of this nature, what you find now is all those white creatures who had what ended up being beneficial, that their natural habitat is being destroyed by another white creature primarily. So we're talking about white people in their, oil and so forth and so on, and then bringing other people into it as well because we're driving cars or whatever. That what they are doing is spearheading the charge to destroy their own natural habitat. There was an article that came out last year that said by 2050 there will be certain parts of Africa, and they said Middle East, I call it Southwestern Eurasia, that will be uninhabitable. They're talking about uninhabitable for them because what essentially is being done, this is the point being by the joke, is that the first human beings had to be black because to be at the equator,
yes, you needed a melanin.
if you don't have fur, like a monkey, if you don't have fur, you better be black,
Yes.
otherwise you won't survive. So this is what we're coming to. So essentially at the end of the day, they're trying to pile up nuclear weapons in order to prevent justice from coming to them. However, the biggest nuclear weapon is the sun, right? And at the end of the day, what they're doing is actually playing into the hands of, eventually they will either be black or they won't exist if they're going to continue existing on the planet. However, there are those like Stephen Hawking who's saying that in this next century is critical because this is the chance for people, meaning white people, to escape and make sure that life is able to, come even if they destroy the earth entirely. So it's saying in this next 100 years we may have a nuclear holocaust, or we may get out into space in order to ensure that humankind, meaning white people, are able to survive. But those who are blacker are not so concerned about the nuclear weapon that's up there because we're very much situated into it for our natural habitat. But this is what we were mentioning before. Cheddar Man, you were saying, was the first people in the British Isles, black. This is a reconstruction that they made recently. Let's come back here. So the quotes that I was given, we did a film, or basically a lecture screening, and you can find it online, The African Origin of So-Called Greek Philosophy, where Obenga at length, he reads Greek, he quotes Plato, he quotes Aristotle, he quotes the Sicilian, Diodorus, and so forth and so on, because again, you don't have to make up anything, just go to what people were reading, were writing at the time, before this modern time where people were starting to come up with, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, the Greeks weren't even in on all that. They came back as conquerors, but they didn't come to the point of let's lie about everything. That's a more modern phenomenon. Again, if we look at certain concepts, Kemet, land of black people, there's a reason why they like to say ancient Egypt, but they don't like to say Kemet, because as soon as you come to the word Kemet, you come to understand it means the same thing as saying Abibi mine. Kush, so we're talking about Kemet going from 3400 to 343 thereabout. That's the time where the Greeks who we taught came to overrun us. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Kush, we're talking about primarily 1000 BCE to 625 BCE. Nebut, what we call Nubia. So origins of African human thought, the same place as the origins of Africans, which are human beings. Key concepts. Interestingly, when we talk about philosophy, the Greeks themselves said that the word sophos isn't a Greek word. They said they got it from Kemet, obviously, and they're coming from the word seba, which is teach, teaching, written instruction, wisdom, pedagogy, sebaid, seba. And again, you don't have to go any further than the Greeks themselves. They say it's non-Attic, meaning not coming from Athens. Others say non-Hellenic, saying not out of anywhere in the Hellenic world. You have the word rech, which is to know, to be aware of, to inquire, to learn, knowledge, opinion. And then Obenga, again, the scholar we mentioned before, human beings know by learning, that is through experience or conditioning, schooling, or study. Rechet, knowledge, science, right? So these are the concepts that we had in ancient Kemet. There was this concept of tep hased, which is the utmost method, the best method in order to come to know things. So when we talk about scientific method, we deal with it like it's a new thing. No, if the only way you can think it's a new thing is if you are steeped in abject ignorance. It means you can't read anything that anyone wrote down before the last 400 years, which is very intentional for us to not know anything that happened before the last 400 or 500 years. Because at that point, then you say, look, I came up from out of the jungle. Thank you, white man, for bringing me up out of there, right? And then even they talk about this so-called historian Trevor Roper, who said, that there was no history in Africa, just gyrations of whatever. And we decried that, we said it as bad, we said it as racist. But then in our own scholarship, we don't know anything outside of this 500-year room.
Absolutely.
So we substantiate it. How come we can't learn about what the people who call themselves black people were doing and why they were doing it, the things that they did right and the things that they did wrong? Because there are lessons in both of those so that we don't repeat the mistakes.
And to me, that's where the biggest value is, even as we transition into this new paradigm. Lessons learned and how to. So you spoke a lot about infiltration. Infiltration, teach, allow people to come in.
And we have to take responsibility for that.
Yes, we need to, right? So you look in the world of. So what would be the way? Is it to isolate ourselves? That's one way. If you said you were learning, that could be one school of thought people will come up with.
Yeah, I was seeing where you were going. This is again that it's not always an either or paradigm, that you have to do one thing or the other thing, or one thing is good all the time and the opposite is bad all of the time. Because again, anytime you do that, let's say there are trends of thought, generally that's not how African people tend to deal with things. Now that has its pluses and minuses, and we'll come back to that. If we look at trends of thought, that tends to be how Eurasians view things. One thing is good all the time and its opposite is bad all the time. That's Christianity, that's Manichaeanism, that's all of these different philosophies. So if we even start off posing the question of should we do this or that, we're automatically falling into this paradigm. And it's not necessarily one or the other. And if we look at Eurasians, because you were talking about pawns and kings and queens and things of that nature, this is what they are actually doing, whether they are conscious of it or not, is that they're dealing with it in the sense of you have those who are going to be mean to you, black person. You have those who are going to be nice to you, black person. But all of these things ultimately serve the whole, you know, to exist, to survive into the future. Because the ones who are mean to you, if you come to power, you know what to do with them. But the ones who are nice to you, you're going to have some issues. You're going to say, no, this is a good one, let's let them survive. At the end, the goals of the mean ones were even accomplished through that behaviors of the nice ones. So if we look at it from our perspective now, you have some who, and I'll give you the example that a psychologist named Amos Wilson says. He says, if you look at any human population, there's a degree of genetic variation. Now, what this is useful for, among other things, is that if a disease comes, there's enough variation that that disease doesn't wipe out everyone, that there are some who are left standing because they had an error, quote unquote, they had a change, they had a transformation that allowed them to survive. Now, this is why you have the greatest degree of genetic variation among African people, because we've been on the planet for the longest time. You have progressively less genetic variation among people depending on how long they've been where they are in that particular state. So if we take that, and he uses this directly as a metaphor for thought, because if you have people who all think the exact same way, like herd mentality, and you can even look at actual herds. So I do homeschooling, and for my daughter, we always look at these wildlife videos, and one is on migration of wildebeest. Now you have some wildebeest who, you know, they go all across the savannah, eventually they come to a river. Now at the river, it's thousands and thousands and thousands, and they come to a point where they all stand at the edge of the river, and they're waiting for one to make this move. Now, if one goes in and the place is filled with crocodiles, now if one goes in, the crocodiles are on it. But if they all go in, the crocodiles can't get all of them. So we talk about herd mentality like it's bad, but here we see an example where positives and negatives to either way, right? So when the herd goes in, you have the bulk of them are able to get to the other side as long as they chose a good crossing point. If they chose a bad crossing point, many of them die trying to cross to a place where now it's a cliff on the other side and they all just crash against it and they all die. But generally what happens is they choose a good crossing point, they go across, and the protection from the crocodiles is in the numbers. However, the downside is that so many get trampled. You understand? As they're all coming in as a herd, you have so many, especially the small ones, whatever, not even some of the big adult ones, so many are going to get trampled every time, and then the crocodiles just wait for those ones and take them. You have some that get off away from there, then the crocodiles get those ones. So again, it's the idea of this diversity of thought. You can have some who say, let's isolate, let's try it. You all do that. You have some say, oh, let's try it this way. You all do that because we don't know which one is going to pan out.
So some will say, let's fake something and see how the response is, so that we gather data. The scientific one say, let's gather data and looking at how the data is, let's come up with a strategy, right? And as you said, a wide array of. So is it an isolationist perspective amongst a spectrum of others, based on how you characterize individuals? If you have people within you who can characterize and say, this person means well, they can become a legion, they can become.
This is project a bit why I say so all these things are hypotheses until you've actually done it before. Now some of these things we've done before, and this is the utility of actually learning about African thought, because we've tried some of these things that just seem hypothetical off in the sky. So then say, what happened the last 1,000 times we did this exact same thing? Maybe this time it will be different, maybe it won't. But you know, to actually be wisdom, to be nyansa, it means that you are operating based on knowledge that's coming from experience. Right? So you say, Abufra Ubia Yebi Pen also opening the Ubi Yebida. And see, as some say opening that will be that. And to obey me, I can say, we say, I be sure. Oh, yeah, what I win. I see you. Minimum catcher of my Yebida. So this is the utility of actually learning from ancient Kemet, from Kush, from Aksum, from so forth, because these things that we're thinking about as though they're purely hypothetical and theoretical, some of these things we've done before and we can see what happened the last 1,000 times we did it. If we don't know this, then we're like insane people, because that's the quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So that's what I would say to that. But at the same time, it's useful for some people to try it this way, other people to try it that way.
I think that's a piece of scholarship which is crucial. Because to me, that's the most pertinent, it's a very pertinent synthesis.
Excuse me. Please, Doc, we have a problem with the key.
Okay.
The main door. We've changed the new door. And for today, it's only 2.
Okay.
So we don't know the time that we close. So that
I won't be long. We're coming close to the end, so I won't stay very late.
I'm sure by 6 we are done.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So that we'll let the cleaners stay up to 6 and lock.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So tomorrow we'll give you a key.
Thank you. Thank you. You're saying this is a piece of scholarship that is...
I think it's so crucial, right? Because it is important. A lot of people would come to the place where I am on exactly what to do based on experience, right? But we don't have the benefit of what has been tried historically, right? Because I look at
this is what tempers what we do.
Yes, because I looked at technology. I believe truly that out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth will speak at some point. What do you start writing and put out?
That's biblical.
That's proverb.
Okay.
Is that Yeah, it's
I think
biblical.
it's in Proverbs.
Yeah, as it's in Proverbs, right?
You should read the book of Amenemope because that's where they plagiarize the Proverbs from.
Okay, so it also
So
comes
that's
from there.
exactly. Not
Exactly.
also come. That's where it comes
Yeah,
from.
it
It
comes
was
from.
plagiarized.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you: is it biblical?
Yeah. Yeah, so you see, you are able to, because of the depth of your knowledge, you're able to tie these things. But I believe, no matter where it comes from, I believe that to be true. It resonates with me. And so it's interesting to find out that it's originated from Africa.
Proverbs come from Amenemope.
Okay. So, based on that, before, you won't see too much of a person's recorded expressions. But today, by virtue of Facebook page, you can see where people's heads are. I can see a whole bunch of my former work colleagues in the South. I work in New Orleans, Louisiana, right? I can see where their heads are looking at their Facebook pages. I can see where they gravitate. It wasn't obvious to me when I was interacting with them in the office and I was on the Facebook page. I can see that, okay, oh, this is what this person thinks this way. So what I'm saying is technology has evolved to a system of record. The book of life is Facebook. People are writing their thoughts, which is an expression of their hearts, on their Facebook pages, on their LinkedIn pages and all that. So if we're trying to be strategic, and there are some people who won't do that. Those who mean evil will not be transparent and put their thoughts out there. The United States Immigration Service is now asking for people's Facebook pages because obviously that's what they're going to use to do. They can profile your mental state by virtue of what you put out there. So because we live in a data measurement, recording and all that world, we can also build our analytics which looks at people. It looks at their philosophy by virtue of what they've written, how it has influenced their actions. We can track all that and then do a much more, I'll say, in-depth, discretionary, and user based on user metadata or individual metadata, rather than say all white people or all black people, because we have black people who are running degrading software that degrades black people. They look like us. They live
Lots of them
within
are
us.
right here.
Yes, they look like us. They walk within us, right? But at the end of the day, they're worse than the guy out there, right? So if
To a certain degree.
so we need that.
This is a different stuff. That person, if they reproduce, their child can still help the collective to exist.
Yes.
You understand? So this is where I'm saying that if you look at the whites, the mean ones and the nice ones, at the end of the day, regardless, they still serve the agenda if the agenda is to exist.
Okay.
By the same token, we need to be looking at ours the same way, because the person who is a sellout today, that same person, look at Malcolm X, right? He went from pimp, pusher, whatever, to become what we now know today. So look at the transformative process, even within one lifetime, but even across lifetimes, it becomes exponential. So this is the thing. Even though you seem like my enemy today, at the end of the day, if you help the collective of us exist, then you are ultimately doing something that's beneficial. Exactly.
Yes.
So these are some of the ways to look at this thing. In terms of the point that you were bringing about before, so we're talking about the usefulness of the diversity of thought. Then you also have the usefulness of singularity of thought, and these are complementary as well. Because at a certain point, we looked at this documentary 1804, how Haiti was able to come together on the basis of, look, we're all black people. We have common enemies, we're all black people. This is what we're going to do. Before that, they were calling themselves, y'all are Fon, y'all are Ngolo, y'all are Yoruba, y'all are this, y'all are Khan, blah, blah. They said at the end of the day, none of that makes a difference because we're not being exterminated on the basis of any of those things. Let's come together on the basis of what we have in common so that we can exist. So in the run-up to that, you had Makandal, who was, my brother they say came out of Jamaica. Some say that he was indigenous to Haiti. You have different stories, but
What's the name again?
Makandal.
Makandal.
But what I'm bringing him up for is that they said that what he did is that when they decided they were going to have a revolution, the first people they decided to poison were the black people who were sellouts. So he wasn't looking at it in terms of let's hold hands, kumbaya, diversity of thought. He said, you all are the ones who are going to betray us in the run-up to the
Yeah, so
revolution.
you're strengthening their resolve. And that's what I was saying.
To bring everything to a point, because before that you had very much diversity. You had some people say it's better to just bend over, give the white people what they want, give me some cash, and I don't care.
Yeah.
You have some people saying let's do this, you have some people saying let's betray the black people. But in this you had everybody coming on one accord because you've gotten rid of all the ones who are doing things that are out of alignment.
Isn't that
with
what's
the goal.
happening in Saudi Arabia? With this new young guy who may be under sentence to become king. He arrested most of the royals.
Yeah.
So what's he doing? He's concentrating their perspective. They're about to make some moves where they don't want distractions.
Yeah.
All right. So it's consolidation, a process of consolidation.
Right.
He goes through that, and a good leader knows when to do that, and when not
A
to
bad
do
one
that.
doesn't know when to do
What
it.
is it?
And a bad leader doesn't know what to do. So
Yeah.
again, all of this comes from wisdom,
Yeah.
comes from experience, comes from learning, comes from saying what happened the last time we did it. Because that in and of itself can now bring about a groundswell of resistance.
Yes.
This is somebody who's planning to oppress us, let's go against that person. So all of these things, again, this is where we start to actually become wise, because it's not that this thing is always good and this is always bad. It's not that this is always good and this is always bad. You have to have the wisdom. Now, what makes Christianity successful, what makes Islam successful, what made Manichaeism successful, this is very simple, because it tells you this is always good, this is always bad.
Yes.
Whether it's true or not, whether it's good or whether it's useful or not,
Yeah.
this is what it is.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's very easy for people to understand that.
So what happens with the manipulator, the kings and queens, is you have become predictable by virtue of your profession. All right. So they know if I give this input, this is
what
the
you
output we'll
have
get
to
out of
do.
you. You have been programmed, right? But for us to get to the next level, we need to know that we need to operate above that. We need to see when that is happening and decide that we're not going to react to this input, right?
But this is the thing, to take on that idea, is that at the end of the day, regardless of what the behavior is, every creature that is going to exist wants to survive and is doing what it wants to survive. The sellouts, quote unquote, want to survive. That's why they're selling out. They think the best way to make sure that my children get a good thing is to sell out. The revolutionaries also want to survive. They just have different methods of how can I ensure that we survive. They're thinking long term. The sellers just like, if I can eat and my children can eat, fine. So again, all of these types of things is to look at them in their context.
That's reproductive. That is reproduction.
Not even reproduction, even on an individual level, but also taking
On
into
a
account
generational-
exactly from an intergenerational perspective. So once we understand that, regardless of what you're doing, we can understand it in terms of survival. You want to exist. The only ones who don't want to exist are the ones who've already killed themselves. Apart from the ones who've killed themselves up to this point, everybody who's left, and even the ones who are killing themselves individually, we can also look at that in the same paradigm, that they're trying to ensure the survival of the group.
So that's why Brexit and the kick against globalization.
You could look at all of these things in
Within that
terms of that type of theoretical framework.
Okay.
You understand?
So-
Even the one who I killed myself, but I'm taking up less resources, so now everybody else is gonna survive. Go ahead.
So in this line, that's why I started getting into these areas when I read later about Nkrumah and some of his ways, and he puts Marx extensively in most of his ways. And I found out that, well, a lot of the things that is Marx talks about, which ought to have been a source of power for maybe the oppressed people, seems to have been actually been taken by the oppressors and actually playing it out. Just like he says, they take the long-term view of issues. They look at what you are doing, they think about, okay, can we cede this power? If you cede this amount of power to them, would you stop the engagement? Then, okay, let's say it. Then the people then rejoice overly about the little that they have, before you realize they've stagnated the forward march, and then they developed a new strategy to contain them. So I think the kings or the queens of the other side is what seems to be lacking in our side, the African people, because it looks like the people who are supposed to spearhead things are the people who are always trying to listen to what the people at the other side are saying without any value judgment to see.
This is the thing. Those people who are so-called leaders have given into artificial selection. They decide the best way to survive is the way of the dog, where someone is going to be the human being, I'll be the dog, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about grants. If you behave, they pat you on the head. They give you $100,000. They give you 50,000 pounds. They give you these things. So as opposed to going along a natural selection route of, the one who is a meritocracy type of deal, is now the one who is most friendly to these Eurasians is the one who's allowed to survive. What happened to Nkrumah? What happened to Lumumba? What happened to Sankara? What happened to Cabral? We can name them. And what they do is that they're actually training you to be a good dog, because we said this is what happens to the wolf. You don't want that to happen. So if you want to survive, you would better sell out. Understand? Now, in terms of Marx, if you actually look at the writings of Marx, again, you could look at this in terms of the paradigm of survival, because the mean ones want to survive, the nice ones want to survive. There's nothing in Marx's writings that tells you what to do about Marx, in the sense of a white German Jew, the same Germans who committed the first Holocaust in Namibia. There's nothing that tells you how to get justice against these Germans. There's nothing that tells you what to do about himself. So you think about it as an attack dog, and a person's ideology is like their attack dog. Now I'm training this attack dog not to come and do anything to me. I'm doing it to protect me. So at the end of the day, this whole thing is to get you to align on various bases. None of those bases will have you ever do anything to Marx or his children or his children's children or whatever. It's giving you a worldview, so you see things in a particular way that ensures Marx's survival. You understand? So you can look at whatever a person gives you, whether it's Marxism or Christianity or capitalism or whatever. All of these are tools, all of these are attack dogs, all of them are there not to turn around and bite the ones who gave it to you, but to do the bidding of the ones who created them in the first place. I'm raising my child not for my child to come and stab me in the neck. So any ideology, any religion, anything I bring to you is in order to serve my purpose, which is to survive, to exist. Right?
So that's one of many. To survive and then to thrive and become wealthy and all that.
You can look at survival as the baseline.
Yeah.
Everything else, if you don't survive, then the other things aren't coming. It's like I'm going to start my tree from the branch here, hang it up in the sky and try to keep it up there and want to stay. But I want to come through a couple of concepts. We mentioned Rites, science, knowledge, Chet, things, offerings, Nefer, goodness, Upi, to open up, inaugurate, to divide, discern, judge. You find in various African languages the word for to discern or to decide something is to cut, right? To part, to separate. So it's like, at what part do you cut? Here. That's what a judgment is. So in Kikongo, Zenga is to cut, but then in Zengo is a word for judgment. Again, at what part do you decide? And Upi, judgment. Whipset, to specify in the sense of details, wisdom, prudence, Sat, Said, to be prudent or wise, sagacious in handling matters, exercising good judgment. This is propriety. You mentioned Ma'at before, which is a feminine principle, and you see her represented as a woman who's seated with a feather of an ostrich. When you talk about Judgment Day, the idea is that your heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. If you speak truth and is lighter than that feather, then you go on to become Asar, like the ruler. So truth, justice, righteousness, propriety, order, balance, harmony, and reciprocity, these are the core virtues of Ma'at. We mentioned Seba before. This is the root of the word sophos and philosophy. Seba also door, Seba also pupil, Seba also star. So there is a relationship between all of these things. So you can think about teaching is a door that opens the pupil to the stars so they can see more. Again, there's a relation between these. At Seba is a house of teaching. That's what they were referred to as a school. Tep Haseb is reckoning, a correct method, a norm or standard of speech, conduct, rectitude. This is what we would refer to nowadays as the scientific method. This is the best way to know, to come to knowing, to know that what you know. So you're talking about epistemology. Again, this is a very ancient concept that it's not just do it willy-nilly. You have to go to the Tep has said, the utmost method. Nefer Necher, a good divinity, Nesit, kingship, rulership. The Ames Papyrus, a treatise on mathematics. It has 20 arithmetic and 20 algebraic problems. This is Ames. You see them with locks just like mine to the back. You thought it started with Bob Marley. This is why I get frustrated with some people sometimes. It deals with fractional expressions, completion, second problems, linear equations, prime numbers is what you see in the background there, is the actual treatise. Geometry problems, multiplication of fractions, and it dates back to, the original dates back to the 12th dynasty reign, around 3,800 plus years ago. Again, dealing with advanced mathematical concepts at that point in time. Erroneously named by Eurasians after the thief of the text, Alexander Rind. So they call it the Rind Papyrus, even though Rind didn't write it and did nothing but stole it. So we should refer to it as the Ames Papyrus because that is the one who actually was the author of it. You also find the idea, the earliest definition of a philosopher, again, comes from Kemet around 4,000 years ago. In Obenga, we find this. He is one whose heart is informed about these things which would otherwise be otherwise ignored. The one who is clear-sighted when he is deep into a problem. The one who is moderate in his actions. No problem. Who penetrates ancient writings. Whose advice is sought to unravel complications. Who is really wise. Who instructed his own heart. Who stays awake at night and he looks for the right paths. Who surpasses what he accomplished yesterday. Who is wiser than a sage. Who brought himself to wisdom. Who asks for advice and sees to it that he is asked advice. So this is the inscription of Antel, 12th dynasty. 12th dynasty, we're talking about 1991 to 1782 BCE. So again, you have a definition of a philosopher before there was any Greek word to describe Phil or Sophos. The idea of the heart in ancient African thought, you find this in Kemet and elsewhere. Ib, the heart, this is where we get Bo as your chest. Heart, mind, understanding, intelligence, will, desire, mood, wish, and we still find it associated with thoughts and emotions. So you say Mibwefu, right? That's where you get it. Hati, also heart, central chest, and thought. The heart, Ib, also Hati in the Egyptian language, was conceived as a seat of thoughts and emotions. The word heart also meant mind, understanding, and intelligence. Reason, emotion, spirit, mind, and body were not conceived as separate antithetical entities. Again, that's very Eurasian in terms of a trend of thought. Matter and spirit were not opposites in conflict. Thus, in their inquiries, philosophers can draw on all the resources of their being, including reason and feeling. In this way, they can expect to achieve fulfillment. So again, it's a very Eurasian thought that body and mind are separate, where one has to be ascribed value and the opposite is valueless, right? Again, that's the same thing as God versus devil. That's the same thing that you find sort of Eurasian thought, not so much among African people, even though to this day you have African people who now think like Eurasians, even more than Eurasians do. So the world's earliest philosophers, we're talking about 2686 to 2181 BCE, around 4,600 years ago. Imhotep, Harjadev, Kagimni, Ptahhotep. So books of wisdom were their pyramids, and the pen was their child. Is there anyone like Harjadev? Is there another like Imhotep? They are gone and forgotten, but their names through their writings cause them to be remembered by everyone except for their descendants, because most black people have never even heard of any of their names. And if you write their names here in Medu Neter, they can't read them. They say, look at the pretty dog, look at the pretty bird. You understand?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Y, M, H. So are those alphabets, the symbols?
This is the source of your own letter M. Is this one? Right? This is the source of your own letter F. This one? Right? This is the source of your own letter N. This one? So when actually I can show you the paradigm that shows how it went into Greek, how it went into Latin, and so forth and so on.
Interesting. Are you aware of the Ghanaian guy who was developing alphabets
Yeah.
in Crescent?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I have a website, Abibi Tumi, so these are thousands of people. We all share this information.
Okay.
So you're waiting for it to leak out to Facebook eventually.
Okay.
But we have think tanks.
Well, he's part of your.
Actually, somebody posted it.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody posted it a while ago. A couple of series of books that came out. The first one, then the refinement based on that one. Here's how some of us stay informed. Early women physicians and scientists. Mary Patah. We're talking about over 4,700 years ago. And this is what she looked like. She looked like someone in your family. But there's a reason why you never see her picture. But you hear about Florence Nightingale, right? Professor Shedd credited as early female physician 2584 or 2486 in that range. Other concepts, when to exist, these are philosophical concepts, right? And they're embedded in the language. Hetep, the synthesis of rest and movement. Hetep, to be peaceful, become calm, to go, rest, to set. Shemit, walking, gait, movements, actions, business. And again, you see these feet walking, it gives you a sense of what the word is talking about. This is another text. The sky existed when you were with me, has passed. The sky exists and you are with me. So long as heaven shall exist, you shall exist with me. So in this same expression, you can express different concepts in terms of being in the past, being in the present, that which will be in the future.
Yeah, I am, becoming, and I will be. All concurrently. Holding stays in my mind.
This is the idea of the
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah.
That which exists is one, and it always has been, it always will be, it always will be, is all one.
So it is, life is being unveiled through me.
That's the proverb about the Nkrabia. Nkrabia no yino ho di pefin wa mnamom.
So it's an unveiling and not a becoming. We already are.
Yeah, it's
an unveiling.
You could look at an unveiling amongst the Bakongo. They see it like an unraveling of a scroll.
Okay.
So what you're doing, even when you're looking into the past and into the future, whether you're talking about prophecy or whatever, they're saying that here you are. This is a scroll. You can unroll it more. You can roll it up more.
Okay.
And depending on what you want to do, those who have the knowledge and have the wisdom are able to see this. This is what we can even do when we're talking about history, learning from experience, learning from wisdom. Because if we don't know it, then we say, if we do this, maybe this will be a good idea. We don't know. But if you have the ability to unroll the scroll, you can see this is what happened the first time we tried it.
Yeah.
The exact same thing happened the 1,000th time we tried it.
Yeah.
If we do it again, do we think the same thing will happen?
And I tell you, that's a
Most likely.
powerful, the concept that it is an unveiling as against a becoming, to me had a very transformational effect in my life. Like I'm becoming, trying to become something as against the concept of everything I'll be, I already am. But like a rose which petals spread open, I am being unveiled. That concept was revolutionary. In my life as against I'm striving to become something which becomes acceptable to God, as against the context of I am in God and I'm being unveiled in this life. It's a more powerful perspective if you ask me.
What I would say to that is I can hear how it's powerful. What I would say as well is that it's not necessarily that those two must be in opposition, that one is good and the opposite has to be bad, because there may be a time where the idea of becoming may be useful, it may be beneficial, it may be helpful. There may be a time where this one that seems powerful may end up being detrimental, but this is why all of these things are like proverbs. The proverb isn't something that's supposed to be true all the time. So it's in its appropriate context. This is when we're talking about the idea of propriety, doing the appropriate thing at the appropriate time. This is where wisdom is actually unveiled. If you're doing the thing that seems appropriate but at the wrong time, let's say you have constipation, this can cause your death, right? So you'll say it would be good if I can relieve myself. Now, if you come into the classroom and you relieve yourself in the middle of the classroom, you've done the right thing, but at the wrong time, in the wrong context. So then you get arrested, someone beats you, and you die anyway. So you understand? So these are things that seem very simple to understand, but again, if we are looking at how African people tend to think, because even in this, we can say there's a time where this Manichean dualism may even be useful, right? But all of it is coming into having the wisdom to be able to understand, right?
So it must serve, it is useful within the context that it serves you and your people.
That's one way to think of it.
Can you say there's nothing good by itself and there's nothing bad by itself, but depending on the situation?
That's a very African way of saying it, right? Because even when we're talking about good or bad, these are subjective value judgments based on the knowledge that you have available to you. But something that you consider to be bad, someone else considers to be good. So let's say you lose your 50 Ghana cedis, it falls out of your pocket. You come into the room, hey, 50 Ghana cedis, now I can pay for my mother's, whatever, medicine. So for you, this was like a blessing because your mother would have died, but now you are able to get her medicinal herbs or whatever she needs. So again, it's a question of perspective, right? There's a story of Eshu, who's seen as being a trickster by some, but he walks on a farm between two friends, and he's walking, he has one hat. He has a hat where it's red on one side, black on the other side. As he walks through, one friend says, oh, do you see the man with the red hat? I said, what do you mean red? It's black. No, it's red. No, it's black. No, it's red. These people who are friends, now they're coming to blows. Then Eshu comes back between them and says, oh, my friend, you were right. You said it was red. It was red after all. Oh, no, you were right. You said it was black. No, it was black after. No, it was red. No, it was black. No. But the idea is that based on what their perspective is what they are able to see.
Yeah.
So this, I see the screen, you see the back. If you explain what you're seeing, that doesn't mean that you are right and I'm wrong, or vice versa. We're seeing it from different perspectives.
The theory of the 5 blind men and the elephant. Some hope that, but to me, the absolute is motivation. What motivates you to act towards another man? If it is love, you can even kill somebody because you love them. I think so, right? So to me, it's a matter of motive. Motive must be absolute, but its effect can be varied. You can slap somebody because you love them. At the end of the day, you can be driven by love to slap somebody, right? Within a certain
should I warn Akuya over here?
Right? Within a disciplinary context, because if you don't knock out, if you don't discipline within a certain context, it messes up the whole, right? So someone may be disciplined because of the love for that person and the love for that person playing a constructive role within the context of the whole, right? So from the perspective of absolutes, always be motivated by love, which I believe is an identity. To me, love is identity. It's not something you say, oh, I love somebody, right? Love is a matter of identity. It's not that I can withhold it from somebody, right? But it can be my motivation to withhold engaging with you because I love you. Or it might be my motivation for getting close to you, depending on context. But the common theme is that I was motivated by love. I mean, that is.
Well, I have also been following the laughter. It's good, it's great. Then I ask so love and wisdom, which is better?
I think they're the same. I think they're different facets of the same. There are various facets of music.
I've been thinking that anybody who is wise will always, the wise always knows the best. And therefore, the wise will act in your best interest. The wise person will act in my best interest. So, Obenfo knows what is good for me. I trust Obenfo in this area of the studies. So, what Obenfo tells me to do is that I must do it because he is the person who you get it.
For me,
so in the end of it, I will not be hurt because he's looking at my best interest, the wise thing. But then when it comes to love, I think love should be, because at the end of it, you look at something and then people will interpret it and say that if you loved, he wouldn't have done it. But maybe he, because he's wise, he's, let's take our we and then the kids. Our wives behave in such a way, it looks like they love the kids more than us. When I know that this thing that you want to get to has a dire consequence if I should allow you, and so I tell you, stop it. You're not stopping it. Stop it. You're not stopping it. I come in.
Yeah.
Then
you've come in because of love.
I want to ask you a question. The word love itself, does la mean something and does va mean something to you? Does o mean something and does of mean something to you?
I'm sure it's
love of life.
I'm saying just the word itself.
Okay.
How do you break down the word?
I cannot.
Does la mean something and does va mean something? Does o mean something and does of mean something? But what I'm getting at is actually a point that what we're doing is we're taking a sound that we really don't understand how it breaks down, and we're ascribing various meanings to it. Now let's look at the word like do, right? Do and or do. So if you look at the word do can be to read and to cultivate something. Do asuko. This can be to dive deep into water. You can also say mitonyami, meaning to swear by, but also that's the same as mikodo kwaimu. It means you go deep into the forest. All of these things have something to do with, here is a threshold and then I'm going into it. So whether it's earth to do the farm, whether it's here's the threshold of the forest, mido kwaimu. So now if you look at all these other contexts where it's used, then you say mido, you're talking about going into someone, seeking refuge in that person, cultivating that person at the same time. Now, I want us to look at this idea of do as cultivation.
I love it because yes, it's true that love is a very abstract thing. It means different things to different people. But once you anchor it within, this is an example
in your own language,
going into my language, it becomes
now
beautiful.
let's look at this word in Medunesha as well. So the word merut, love, will, desire, meruti, the well-beloved, merut bo sutta. This first part of it is mer. Mer, and you see this all throughout mer. And what it is a hoe that's used to cultivate soil. So there's a relationship here. The idea of love is linked to cultivation. You understand? To cultivate someone, so you have weeds growing in you. You're my child, you're growing up with weeds, I want to cultivate you. I hope you're following along. So when we start looking at these concepts in our own language, like if we talk about the word love, there's nothing in the word itself, or even me, a native speaker, that would guide me to anything. We can be sitting here for the next 30 days and accomplish nothing. Because I'm just saying I have these experiences that I've heaped on the word. Just saying I have these experiences that I heaped on the word, and I'm trying to get some meaning from it. But in our own languages, the word itself will help to guide you to what do we mean. Our African thought is built into it. So when we're thinking about cultivation, it shows you what you should be doing if you really love someone. So if I see you drinking yourself to death and I say that's my friend, you say, hold up, I don't think that's love. Oh, I love you. Well, let's go down to the bar and kill ourselves with some drinks, right? It looks like love. We're hanging out, we're smiling, we're laughing, ha ha ha. But then if you look at it in this sense, you say, I don't think that this is odo.
That is powerful.
Right? Odo, ado, odo. Because again, when you switch that prefix, it gives you a slightly different sense. So ado is this one. Odo is what we would say is this one. But there's a relationship between the two that the language itself will help you to uncover. Right? Let's continue because I want us to finish the slides so we can go to the next time. We were talking also about stability, endurance. So Jed is to be stable or enduring. Jet is eternity. And again, to even have a philosophy or a deep thought, you have to have these concepts to be able to deal with them. And there are powerful things that come out when you even just look at it from the word. Now, this is why I was saying that one is not necessarily good and the opposite bad when we're talking about becoming, because this is a very powerful concept as well. Keper. So in Chi, they call it kukuru bin sini. Kukuru bin sini. This is the one who, kukuru bini is sini. So it lifts up small pieces of dung. And it's a representative, this is what they call a kepra beetle, a scarab beetle. And what it does is that it takes something that looks like it's dead, which is dung. It looks like all the life, you've eaten it, all the life has been zapped out of it, you've gotten the nutrition, and what's left is just that which is dead. But what this kepra beetle does is that it lays its egg inside of what looks like it's dead. So then when the Nile rises, then all of these small beetles come out flying. So it shows this process of death and then regeneration, rebirth coming from it. So in the word keper, to exist, to be, to come into being, to become, to change into, to occur, to happen, to come to pass. So as an intransitive verb, keper means come into being, change into. This is often used in the creation story. This word is used to occur, to happen, to be effective. Also go by, be past, always with the idea of continuity. Keper also means, as noticed earlier, to exist, to be. As a transitive verb, it means bring out, like from inside of yourself. The dynamic character of keper is generally clear. Its connotation contains the unity of being, becoming, and effective. Within it, the gap between becoming and being is closed by virtue of effecting. In the universe, everything is full of power, ka, and effectiveness, keper. The ka is the dynamic essence of each existence or being in the universe. So again, we can say, I can see how this is powerful, this concept is powerful and changed my life, to the exclusion against that. But it's not always that way. Sometimes this concept can be very powerful, whereas this one may end up causing stagnation or something else, but it's being wise enough to know when to use it in what context. Concepts of person, rites of passage, and we'll close with this section. We talked about the concepts of the person, the human being, as a living son. So for each entity that exists, you can say that they go through different rites of passage: birth, initiation, marriage, eldership, ancestorhood, and then back again. So in the ancestral realm, they go through this as well. So Kumseke, this is the realm that we're in. This one, Kumpemba, this is the realm that the ancestors are in. So you are conceived here in the ancestral realm. Eventually you come up to birth, that's Kala. Then you come up to Tukula, that's when you're at your highest point, we're all strong, vigorous, right? Eventually you'll get weaker and weaker, you'll become an elder. That's when you get to Luvemba, and then you come back down here to conception. So they say, oh, you people believe in reincarnation. No, we understand that energy is not created or destroyed. It's only transformed. So this is the idea that every single thing that exists, you can see it as metaphorically like a living son. The story that I told, I conceived it. I started telling it, I ended telling it, then I conceived something else. Or the person who heard it comes to a point of conception of ideas, right? And this is the same exact paradigm that they had in Kemet, where they had Asar is here as conception, Kepri is here, and this is becoming, coming into being, coming into existence. Ra is the sun at its fullest. You have Atum, this is what we're talking about, the creator divinity was called Atum. This is it, Itum. You come back here to Asar. Now the difference, you'll see that this one goes in this direction because the people who are expressing it are south of the equator. And if you're looking south of the equator, it looks like the sun rises on your east, and that looks to be on your right hand side. And it looks like it sets on your west, that looks to be on the left hand side. The people in Kemet, just like those in Ghana, are in the northern hemisphere. So they're looking at the equator. So picture this is the equator. They're looking at the equator as on your left hand side.
Concept of the person, human being as a living. Can you also think of this as the milestones in human development?
Yes. This is what we're talking about when we're saying rites of passage. You can think about the milestones in your development, both as a living human, but then you have those same milestones when you become an ancestor, until you eventually graduate to become born again, right? Now this is a very important point because in Kemet the very first maps were south up maps. Because again, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it makes sense that you're looking at the equator, and from the northern hemisphere, it looks like the sun rises on your left. So the word east and left were the same word, yabit. The word west and right were the same word, imintet. Right? So this is how you're coming to it. So even though you could say, oh, it looks so different, these people are doing it counterclockwise, these people are doing it, no. The worldview is the same, it's just a question of perspective. Just like, am I on this farm and do I see the red side of the hat or the black side of the hat? But fundamentally, there's something core that we both saw someone walk by, right? We can agree on that. Also, the divisions of life are seen as analogous to the divisions of the day. So again, this is among the people of Congo. That's what we were dealing with before. This is the Kikongo language of the Bakongo people. Again, they divide the day like this. So in Dingwa and C, this is what we call midnight. This is what they call the love-making hour. And some of us who are old enough to know about. But this is the point in time of conception. This is why we conceive our children typically at night. Then eventually you come to Makielo, then Nseluka, Kinsamina, Mbata, Nsinsa, Ndimina, Madamutulu, and then back to Ndingo and C. So the way the sun moves throughout the day is the same way a human being moves through our life and our death and then our life again. And you can see the same concept in the temple of Dendera in ancient Kemet, that they showed these major hours and then the minor hours. In Kikongo they call it Lobiangudi and Lobianduelo, the small hours. But this is across the great year that we were talking about before, around 26,000 years or so, and a great month, each one around 2150 years. Now, some of us, we hear about Galileo as the one who discovered that the earth is round, but about 1,000+ years, you have this as one of the first depictions of the earth as round in the world, and it's actually in the Metropolitan Museum. So Eurasians know about this, but they decide that you won't know about it. To even go and see it, you have to go to their museum. But they won't show you. And this is on the sarcophagus of Wersh Nefer. Right? I think we're going to have to save this for next time.
Working this morning.
Because we've had very, very vigorous discussions. This is Dr. Charles Finch, and he goes into what's called the Wheel of Heaven, and you can find this online and look at it at your own leisure as well. But I have a couple parts of this here because this is going into what we were talking about before in terms of what these ages are all about and what's going on in each one of these ages. Again, we talked about Num, which is the primeval waters, primordial waters in the beginning was the womb, the water. And then you have these 8 that came about first, the 2, Shu, Tep, Nut, Geb, Nut, Osir, Oset, Nebet, Hut, and Seteh. Osar and Oset gave birth to Heru. That's where your Jesus story comes from, because Heru is a representation of the sun itself, right? Let's see, the idea of the primeval waters as the womb, the serpent as the phallus is present. They present creation superimposed onto original creation. So in many of the creation stories it talks about in the beginning was water and there was a serpent in the water. The serpent represents the phallus, the water represents the womb. If you know how creation happens now on the micro scale, then you know how creation worked then on the macro scale. And this is why even the Eurasian creation stories still have a serpent in them, right? So you go from the known to the unknown, and you use analogy as a tool of knowing. The Yoruba origin of procreation likened to a serpent. The Akan, their creation story has a Bosumru as a serpent. Twins hearkening to original twin births, analogous to division of cells. Male, female twins, the first humans. They have a view of twins. So in various African cultures, they say in the beginning was twins, but they have different reactions to how that beginning was, because some say if we have twins now, that's going back to creation, that's a good thing. Other people say if we have twins now, that time is over, we should no longer do that, so therefore they say twins are not a good thing. But again, there's a fundamental worldview in the beginning, is this division of 2, 4s, 8s, 16s. It's just what's your reaction to this. Also, the idea of the woman ancestors as one. As we looked at that cycle there, this is what I have on my bag. People say, "Oh, it's just a cute bag," but it's actually the same thing that we were just talking about before, right? This is Kumpemba, this is Kumseke, and it's a very powerful concept for us to remind ourselves about. Yeah, right, from the Bakongo. The language is Kikongo, but the people are Bakongo.
Okay.
It's the same Ba that we have in Tree to this day when I want to talk about plural human beings, Banu, Basan, Banai, Banum, so forth and so on, right? And it's common to various African languages. It either starts with Ba or Wa.
Okay.
Very good.
That's powerful.
Reincarnation is again coming from the same core idea of the womb and the ancestors that are one. So you find this in names like Tunde, again arrives. Tunji, again awakens. Nana, which is both grandparent and grandchild. And this is why it's the grandparent who does the naming ceremony, because that's the one who's best able to see their own grandparent when they're reincarnated this time. This is why you have someone named Kriya, even though they're not born on Ukriya, because someone recognizes them. You've come with the same Nkra that you had last time, the same Nkra you had last time. You have to fulfill what you came and started the first time around. Again, the idea of birth as reincarnation. Abiku among the Yoruba, Ogbanje among the Igbo. Again, the idea of parts which are reincarnated among the Akanis, the Okra, which meets again with the Sunsum. So the idea is that the Antro comes from your father's line, and your Antro can be various ones, Bosom Pra, Bosom Chi, Bosom Ru, Bosom Afram, Bosom Konsi, so forth and so on. That Antro, when it comes to be a part of you, it develops into what is your own personal Sunsum. When you pass on, it transforms again to become the Osamine. The Osamine goes back to your father's household waiting to be reincarnated. What happens in certain cases is that the same Kra you had last time and the same Sunsum that you have, they reunite to become you again, right?
Interesting. Let me ask, when do our traditional leaders, like the chiefs of Achem, Ashanti, do they know these things?
This is a good question. You should probably ask them.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked that question is there must be an explanation for how things got so. People were being sacrificed left, right, center. Their essential humanity just being desecrated at a point in time, which really didn't seem like an enlightened place to be. I feel that maybe there was a war or something which happened where the sages who maintained this knowledge in some communities were either not able to pass it on, right? And that resulted in a darkening of the consciousness of groups of people. And
or we could say a whitening of their consciousness.
Yeah.
Because the longer you're in the dark, the whiter you become.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So because I need to find.
Yeah.
No. What time are you finishing?
If I say no,
6.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we need to find an explanation for, because there are positives and negatives to the Christianization of Ghana, for example, survival of human beings in terms of sacrifices and all that kind of stuff, right? So it may not be the foundations may serve a certain end. Maybe the people didn't want to see a lot of goriness, right? So a lot of things were devised, and with that, a lot of stuff was thrown away with the baby water, right? But there needs to be an explanation for some things which we were doing, a certain trajectory we were on at some point in time, which were not good which didn't reflect Odo. Odo for everybody, not Odo only for the king, but Odo for this other person's child who may be killed because a king is dead, for example, right? So if we look at the Odo as the guiding paradigm, then we were doing some things within our culture which were contrary to order of neighbor, or which were contrary to having a basic respect for the dignity in everyone. Right? So I'm looking for if you have any thoughts to share on that.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a, I'll come back to that. There's a book called Rituals of Blood by Orlando Patterson that I found fascinating because it starts off giving a scene of, ritual sacrifice, but it gives the details before it explains where the sacrifice is taking place. And the sacrifice is taking place in Christian America, and it's called a lynching. And basically what he's going into, because you're reading it like, oh, this must be some jungle, backwards, whatever. But then he says, and there's a cross that's here, and the high priest order, whatever. So when you're talking about Christianity coming to end human sacrifice, that if you look at very Christian countries such as, we can go throughout history, but let's start from America, that they perform human sacrifice, they just call it something different. They call it capital punishment, but it still serves the exact same purpose that human sacrifice has always served, which is to strengthen the nation on the blood of the people who they are sacrificing. That's what they're doing. If you look at, the Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition, if you look at Salem witch hunts, all of these are Christian nations where they are performing sacrifices, human sacrifices, blood is flowing. No religion has killed more people than Christianity on the face of the entire planet Earth. Since the beginning of, Earth, if we're counting by numbers, there's been no more human sacrifice and blood and gore than under Christianity. Islam is trying to get up to that point. It's a close second. But all of these so-called revealed religions
are we
very...
saying it's justified?
No. I'm coming back to where you're dealing with. So again, but that's just to put it in context because you're talking about Christianity ending human sacrifices, but it did not end human sacrifices. If you talk about the 200 million
from a global
Africans,
perspective,
even from the local perspective either, because what you're doing is you're saying that you can't sacrifice human beings to make your nation do whatever it does, but we can sacrifice those same people to make our nation do what we want it to do. We're still killing people, but so you can't do it.
It's a global, there's a problem there, so far as consistency.
Right, so far as consistency in those things. The other side of it is when we're looking at our concept of what is death, because again, if we're talking about this time as enlightened and that time as quote unquote darkened, they used to have in Kemet world called Per Ankh, but under Christianity, that's where they closed down the houses of life, where they no longer allowed instruction in all of these things that we're talking about now, because of the coming of Christianity. So the shutting down of these temples, prohibition of writing, all of these things came about because of the spread of Christianity, again to give some historical background to what was going on there. Now also looking at sacrifice, looking at what different nations who are doing it now, not to say whether it's justified or good or bad, but what they're doing it for now and what they were doing it for then is the same purpose. The difference is now black people are not supposed to be doing it, but it's still being done. Now we come down to the idea of what is our concept of death. Is death an end? Is death a transformation? If you understand death as a transformation, it puts a different understanding on what's going on when these people are so-called being sacrificed. Are they being obliterated from existence or not? Now, some people who were so-called sacrificed volunteered because they wanted to join this ancestor in the afterlife. Others did not want to go. This is where we go into aspects of human rights and things of this nature and those things. But again, what's our perspective on even what death is? Is our perspective of death this, where this person who is so-called sacrificed comes back around again? Or is our concept of sacrifice something that is teleological? It's a line. Now I've come to the end of my line. This is what's wrong. You understand? So I haven't answered your question, but I've given you some things to...
Yeah, that it needs to be treated within the context of the worldview of that jurisdiction concerning death and all that.
Not only that, but also in the context of the global world, because this is the narrative that we get, that we were doing human sacrifices. Christianity came and ended the human sacrifices. No, Christianity came and brought more human sacrifices than have ever been done on the face of the entire planet Earth in the name of King Leopold. You know, what is that but human sacrifice?
Yeah.
They're not calling it that,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what it is, and that's
I think
exactly
you're
what
absolutely- I
it's
think
doing.
You're absolutely right.
It's strengthening Belgium by all of this blood. There's energy in that blood. Belgium is getting stronger in that. Look at Germany, the Herero people. They had this General von Trotha issued an extermination order. That's human sacrifice. They said every Herero, every Nama is to be exterminated off of the face of the planet. That human sacrifice on a level that has never been seen in Africa before.
About the blood and energy getting blood and energy and the strengthening of nations. That is one paradigm. The other paradigm is a lot of energy causing chaos and entropy because things are bouncing around. It's chaos. You go to Nigeria, high energy. You feel the high energy. In Nigeria, for example, a lot of killings happen. Boko Haram, this, that. But it becomes hard to develop, right? So it is
It's Isfet.
the
This is what is referred to as Isfet, which is the complement to Ma'at. So Ma'at, as we're talking about, truth, justice, order, righteousness, balance, reciprocity. So things that were being done in a specific order, in a specific way, in order to bring about a specific outcome. The outcome of that was not what we have now, which is white on top, black on the bottom. Right now, things have been done in order to basically make Isfet reign. This is what you're talking about in terms of chaos. The term for chaos in Kemet was Isfet, disorder, falsehood. You actually have depictions of what is going on, where they would say in this period in time, the blood of Ichru, that's what they call it now, the blood of the water of Ichru was so filled with blood that someone wants to take it to drink but has to spit out because it's nothing but blood in the thing. You understand? So in a period of time of order, the deaths that were happening were this one death will happen, this one death will happen, things were happening in a specific way. In a time of Isfet, this is when you have the Eurasians who come in and they kill all these people indiscriminately, rape, murder, so forth and so on. So the thing is not that the death is good here and bad here. It's not death is good here and bad here, but what's the overarching order in which the deaths are occurring? What's the overarching order or disorder in which the deaths are occurring now? Right now we're in a period of Isfet, so deaths are occurring and this energy is going off. You have various world powers. You have America as a world power, you have Britain as a world power. All those deaths, all those black lives predominantly, there was something that was going out of Africa and going into those powers. Now, will they be able to harness those powers forever? Most likely not. This is what we're talking about, these transitions, because everything follows this cycle. America is somewhere around here, and it's getting to November. Eventually, all the parts that make up America will dissipate and form something else later on.
Because then when it comes to a policy perspective, right? So this is one line of thought. But when it comes to a policy, I mean government, am I to sit down and say, okay, we are in this age, these killings are happening, or I understand why it is happening?
I don't think, personally, I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think it's a good thing, especially in this current context in which we are. I don't think it's a good thing. But those killings are still happening, and they're happening for the exact same purpose, but with a different quote-unquote beneficiary of those sacrifices.
I mean, if people think that that is what is required to maintain their reproduction functions and to sustain like survival for them, then that's what they're doing. Israel may kill people in Syria because Israel thinks that is what it's willing to do that if that's what will assure its survival, right?
And then also to look at sacrifice. A couple of months ago, I gave a talk on libation and sacrifice as separate sides of the same coin, and looking at the prototypical sacrifice as here is a fruit that I'm eating. Instead of eating the seed too, I'm going to take the seed, put it down, and allow it to grow so that the next generation So when I say I'm offering it to the ancestors, because the womb and the ancestors are one, what I'm offering to the ancestors is what, when they reincarnate, that's what they're going to come and partake of. That's the prototypical sacrifice. The prototypical libation is pouring water on that seed so that it can grow up. And you're saying words so that your future generations will be able to partake of this and survive, because that's the core of anything you do. I think everything that comes out from that, any other type of libation, any other type of sacrifice, is very far extracted away from, abstracted is the word I'm looking for, abstracted away from what this core idea is. Because when we're talking about sacrifice, what you're saying is something that could enrich me, something that I could use to get nourishment and health and whatever. Instead of me taking that seed in, I'm going to sacrifice it and make sure that somebody else has something. But if you do that with a bull, you know, it's like we got so far away from what the original thing is, because a bull isn't going to pop back out and become a tree of bulls. You understand? But I think that if we can get back to what this core idea, because I see libation and sacrifice as really going back to the beginning of the agricultural era, the beginning of agriculture. Because, and if you look at different African societies, the idea like the Dogon, the granary is sacred. They take all the grain, the millet, they put it into the granary, and this is a sacred place because what does it do? It ensures survival. You understand the libations and those things.
That is beautiful. Now, along the curve, along the cycle, like the Kibongos, what they have, are there practices to help one, to propel one along those milestones? Birth, initiation.
One of the texts, one of the main texts for the course is self-healing power and therapy. It's called, in Kikongo they call it Lendo Mukukinyakisa, power inside of self-healing. And this is basically looking at these regenerative powers that people have inside of themselves in order to propel them along these different stages of life.
How do what's the practice one does on a daily basis? Because I'm asking this question because I'm looking for that superintendent that I'm talking about. Right.
Different people do different things. Like for me, what I do in the mornings is I pour libation.
So what kind of there's a libation which is more for generation. I'm looking for a libation which facilitates the unveiling of your Nkrabia.
These are not separate things.
Okay.
When you understand what the libation, now you have people who go get some schnapps from Amsterdam. They're just doing what they've seen someone else do. But again, the idea is if you understand that all these different things are one, what you're pouring out, what you're saying, it's like when people say modern times, let's do affirmations. Oh, I'm going to do, what is that but what you're saying in the libation? I want this to happen, I want this to happen, when you actually speak it out. So there's a text called Medu Necha, which translates to divine words. That's the name of the written language of ancient Kemet. But this is the idea of imbuing these things. There was this experiment of this, I want to say Japanese guy who froze water. One water he was cursing into, one he was saying nice things into. When he froze this one, that the crystals came out all jagged and rough. When he froze this one, they came out in perfect, you know, whatever. So basically dealing with the energy that you're putting out. And every they call it Fochi-di, which is like to strike a vibration. So again, all of these things come to what level of understanding do you have? Because you can have two different people who are doing the same thing, it looks like, but they can have different concepts. One thinks I'm doing this for something outside. One thinks I'm doing this for what's inside of me. That there's no difference between this thing and me. We're interrelated. We have to finish up, so let me finish these last few slides.
This is a serious course.
Yeah, I think so. Also, the idea that the human being is a collection of selves: the soul, the name, the heart, the spiritual double, the shadow, the ancestral guardian. Okra din sunsungre hon moja onam akoma itri tibwa adrine sumsuma nyadye. That this is what we mentioned before. The intro develops into the sumsum, which becomes the sama, and that's the ejafa. The moja, which comes from your mother, becomes your honam. That becomes your efuno or your amu. Eventually, it goes back to asasi. That's ena afa. The okra, that one doesn't change. It comes from onyame as okra. It's in you as okra. It goes back to onyame as okra, and it holds on to your Nkrabia. We has destiny.
Where does consciousness reside?
So if you're talking about consciousness, you can look at several things. Yovre, Akoma, Itri, Tibwa, Adrine, Sumsuma, and Sumsum. All of those you can see as this one word that we're talking about, consciousness. So it's like if we say, well, where is your spirit? Again, this is a problem of the equal sign, right? Because spirit, if you look etymologically, it's the same thing when we're talking about respiration, inspiration, perspiration. It's just breath, right? Spire. But that's only talking about home from the Akan sense. But if you translate Sunsum, how do you translate that? Oh, that's your spirit. Well, then what's your Samai? Oh, that's a spirit. What's home? Oh, that's spirit too. So there's this poverty of expression in this English language. So if we try to make a one-to-one equal sign, we miss a lot of these nuances that are conveyed in the African concept. So in Krabia, and we'll go into that Kra to say farewell, and Bia, manner, the manner in which you say farewell. Shebia, Shebre, all of those will come to throughout this course. Initiation as a period, you have circumcision of boys into adulthood. That was seen in Kemet, also in Nubia. At the age of 14 years, this is a forerunner of what we refer to as secret societies. You have the Egungun among the Yoruba, you have ancestral mass, women with mass before men, this is in the Yoruba story. You have the Poro and Sande societies in Sierra Leone, the Ogugu society among the Igbo.
So you said by 14 is when people started getting initiated into secret societies.
Yeah, when you start to become a man or a woman. And in conversations with Ogo Tumela, they actually go into the reason why. And part of it is for gender differentiation. So you can assume the roles of what a full-grown man would do. You can assume the roles of what a full-grown woman would do for the society. And among traditional Akans, they didn't do this, circumcision at all. That was seen as a deformation. However, among other African societies, they did do it. But there's an undergirding worldview that unites both of those. Again, circumcision necessary to make men and women. And again, this is in conversations with Ogo Tumela, seen as a reenactment of creation. The foreskin of the man is seen as female, and when it's cut off, it transforms to a lizard. The clitoris of the female is seen as male. When it's cut off, it turns into a scorpion. And again, these are seen as complementary parts of the same whole. So those who say we should get rid of the female one, they also need to say we need to get rid of the male one. They don't say that because Eurasians say male one is okay. But again, both are done for the exact same reason. Definitive separation from childhood and into gender roles. The blood is seen as making a connection with the ancestors back into the earth. Also must not divulge secrets of the initiation society. These initiation systems are dying out. Sharing with the outside world is what's going on now. You see this in the book of Water and the Spirit by Maladoma Some, where he went through his initiation process. Maladoma Some of Water and the Spirit. You can write that down. Also, there's a text, Akomhon Komobo, which was put out through Institute of African Studies by Nana Kwekum Frama, where he went into the secrets of what some of these things were. Ogo Tumeli, after Goddess Dibia, this is the text I've just mentioned.
So what do you think will be the resource to first look at for initiation?
Oh, you can look at any of these. Yeah, and it's throughout the continent. So Akomhon Komobo is Akan, Ogo Tumeli is Dogon, after Goddess Dibia is Igbo, Nganga Kimwandinde Kia Bunse Kifu Kiao, that's self-healing power and therapy. That's the one I mentioned before. That's Bakongo. Maladoma Some is Dagaba. Credo Fusama Zulu Mutwa. Indaba My Children. That's Zulu. Also, the next stage, marriage. The reasons for marriage. One is personal immortality to transcend death through procreation. Women in Kemet have rights to ownership and property rights. Access to all echelons. You had Pesacheta, as mentioned before, credited as the first female physician almost 4,600 years ago. Said, oh, one day women will get into medicine. Where have you been? Men and women, greater equality in Kemet. Also in marriage, couples were seen in depiction, in carving. Sisters were seen as wives. Brothers as husband. These were the terms that were used for your wife. This is my sister, this is my husband. That's my brother. And well-off, you had arrangements and intermediaries, cola nuts. Also acceptance by taking part of the gift was seen as a contract. If I eat it, if you eat it, it becomes part of you. So if later on you say, no, this never happened, I never saw it, this part of you now is there to attest that you were there. Marriage, good children, health, wealth, being spiritually bonded, all of these. The next stage, eldership, elders who represent tradition and wisdom of the past. The ideal life to be emulated, they serve as models. Opinion, again, you also have not everyone who is old is a model to be emulated. So you're not necessarily an ancestor just because you're dead. You're not necessarily an elder just because you're old. Again, it's not just being old. So along with new infants, elders, actual elders are seen as being closest to the ancestors. Ancestorship, the ancestors are seen as intermediaries. There's no need for a supreme being to interact directly, that we can follow this chain in order to get to the supreme being. Because if you understand the supreme being as permeating everything that exists, how do you get to the star that's the furthest star you see in the sky? Right? It'll be very difficult in your lifetime to get to that star. Much less, you can barely get to Pluto, much less can you get to that star. So now you need some intermediary that can access every single thing that has ever existed, that exists right now, and ever will exist. And this is the role of the intermediaries. So ancestors are seen as guardians of order. Asar was veneration for departed ancestors. We were talking about Asar, Set, and Heru.
Are the ancestors seen as part of the web?
Yes. Everything that ever existed, everything that exists now, and everything that ever will exist.
So if one sees themselves as connected to the web, like an internet, they know that they have access to every... Right.
But if you're offline...
yeah, if they have, exactly. So that's where I was coming to.
Yeah.
Because once you have this, the risk in having the hierarchical concept of going through somebody else, that's somebody, which I suspect happened in Ghana at some point, is that the person may be offline, in that they have the form of the office, but they're not spiritually connected.
This is what's going on right now. What you're talking about is what's going on right now.
They have the form of the office, but they're not spiritually connected. So I like the concept of the internet, where everybody sees that they are on the network, and there is a self-healing network. If this person is offline, it connects to another one who is until,
Yeah, and this is the thing. The only reason, again, your purpose for being on the planet is not to worship this or worship that or do anything. It's to fulfill your Nkrabia. Now, when you have challenges is when you go and seek help. It's like you don't live in the hospital.
Yeah.
You go to the hospital when you have a challenge that you say, you know what, I'm not able to deal with this. I need some help.
Yeah.
Right? So this is, again, the whole thing. So all of these other, whether you can refer to these intermediaries, quote unquote, as like an Ochiami, the point of all these Akamafor is that if I come to a point where I keep going broke, I keep, basically like that, I keep coming against these roadblocks, what's going on, because the Nkrabia is revealing itself that anytime I do this, I'm unsuccessful. Should I stop trying this and should I go this way? Then the person who's able to unroll this scroll is to say, you know what, you should take this path. When you do it, it works out for you. Then you come and give an offering, and then things are going well for you. But again, your first point of call is yourself. It's only when I'm not able to do this, I need some help, which is allowed, and there's actually a system of help in this internet. It's like I go to a support forum. My laptop is broken, I need some drivers. Where I get the drivers at? But we come back and we're getting close to our, we're actually past our designated time and we're getting past our other time. But we have 2 more slides. So, shrines to divinities, offerings, recitations of sacred texts. Carvings were seen as receptacles for offerings into which prayers could be directed. The dwelling place for the spiritual double. Projections of society on the spiritual realm. The earth was seen as the abode of the ancestors as well. And again, we go back to the creation story that that everything that's inside of this carving is the same thing that exists in me, because we're all ultimately made from the same source. So therefore, the power that's in me, if I have a higher level of consciousness, I'm not going out of myself. I realize that this is part of myself. You understand? But again, Eurasians, either they didn't understand that or didn't want to understand that. They said, you know what, if we don't understand this, we can kill off all these people and enslave them.
So
even if we do understand it.
So you get immersed in what's going on. You cannot understand it looking at it from outside. You cannot understand America looking at it from here. You got to get immersed in it and understand it from
you say, also ancestorship. Ancestors are seen as guides. They've walked on the road before that you are walking on. So again, what you can learn from history is not to be a fool twice. Need for immortality through those who live on. So again, if I want to be immortal, I can do that. And one of many ways, one is to have children and then regenerate myself in that way. It maintains a cycle of continuity. This is necessary for funeral rites to take place. Again, death is not automatic for ancestorship. Among the Igbo, they have Ofo as a symbol of authority. Ancestors are called more than divinities in traditional African society. Ancestors ensure continuity, and they're called upon for each rite. Libation is seen as a family reunion. So what I'm doing is I'm calling those who I can see physically, I'm calling those who I cannot see physically to the same places when we do Awokudai, Akwazidai. It's basically a big family reunion. Now, all of this is in our first chapter, Person, Divinity, and Nature. So what I'll do, let me get your email, and also, I don't know if I have yours, but I'll send you a link to the Dropbox that has all of our text for the class.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
Evening very well spent.
Good.
I'm glad about how to stay connected to this place. And
but yeah, because of our conversation there at the chop bar,
yeah.
I said you'll probably be interested in some of this.
I'm glad they called.
So what I would like for you to do is do the reading, and then any questions you have, we'll start off with that next time before we go into the next presentation. What you're driving towards is to write a paper on African thought, these foundational concepts that you find throughout African thought, whether they're pouring libation like this or like that. What's foundational to why we do it? Our concept of time, our concept of the human being, of creation, all of these things.
So I have a book title, a book I'm writing. It's called Restoring the Gates of African Thought. So it's very interesting because apparently African thought has been corrupted. Right? How do you restore the gates of African thought? And that's where the innovation is, because that's the value to the larger society, right? And that's where that increase symbols, they just keep coming up. So I was going to show you something. Let me see right now. Because I'm looking at the practices. When I ask you about the daily things one can do to progress in the unveiling of their incrabia. That's what came to me. So these are the 12 Adinkra symbols which came to me, starting from where there's oneness, and I relate that to the ancestral realm of oneness, then a descent into this world, and the journey, this is, but essentially the symbols are right, but the names, we have to align them. So it needs to shift by one. Then Fufu is envy and jealousy, and Bibi was Roman and Sanka. So to me, this captures my human development journey, right? The fact that I didn't start here, I descended into this world. I go through a period of wandering where I don't know, and I'm hitting my work.
But this one isn't enough to call this is Bwamina Memoir.
Yeah, Bwamina Memoir. So that becomes the what do you call it? The operative paradigm. and also
Reciprocity.
reciprocity. Right.
Yapon. Yapon.
So what I'm doing is putting this. This becomes a reference. I'm making meditation maps based on this, and developing a number of products.
This is beautiful.
Which so I have some I'll probably bring to show you, but that is what I'm looking to use to sustain the number of